They say when you wear Black Power Media gear, you can accomplish anything. You can play any and every position. Coaching, to kicking, to receiving, to running and juking. And, oh my goodness, I see that again in slow motion. Get off me. And you're going to have a lot of haters coming at you, but what you got to do is you got to shake them off, and get to your goal and accomplish it. And when that's done, it's a beautiful thing. I'm talking about going hard, extra, for that extra point. And when it's done beautifully, you talking about touchdown. Oh, and the crowd goes wild and they're celebrating with you and everything. Man, let's see that again. Nice.
Black Power Media, baby. That's how we do it.
Now go to blackpowermedia.org and get you some of that gear. Empower yourself today. Yeah.
You got to earn your liberation.
All right. What's up, world? Welcome back to another edition of Earn Your Liberation right here on Black Power Media. Geechee Yaw, Jared Ball. We'll see if the diva himself makes it. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up?
What's happening?
How you
man?
feeling? What's up, remixers?
I know you was under the weather. You back at it?
I'm getting there. I'm almost there. I'm tell you what, though.
What's that?
The world will bring me back through the energy it's given. Oh, here we go. What's up, Diallo?
Good morning.
Look at the diva on there, Chicago, Chi-Town. What's up, man?
Good morning, A-Town.
I see you got the deck. You got the cards. All right, let's. What's up, remixers? Welcome everybody. Please like, share, subscribe, support the platform however you see fit. Materially, patreon.com, immaterially, just like, share, subscribe, put something in the socials, put a comment on it. Look, Diallo, they coming in nice today, man. They coming in nice. The chat is there. It is.
Yeah, Diallo.
I appreciate it.
Look at you, man. People got to change their heart for you. Hey, this is probably the worst hand I ever dealt. So we'll see how you manage this.
All right, let's get it started.
Let's get it.
We do have a big show. We got a number of interesting topics to get to today. Man, a number of people. Yeah, we're gonna have to. We should talk a little bit about Joe Madison. I see somebody already mentioned his passing.
Oh yeah.
Another nice sweater to Diallo.
I do my best.
Diallo.
All right.
The Bill Cosby sweater game.
The Bill Cosby sweater. A Cosby sweater. What y'all know about? What's that movie with Jack Black where he did that line?
Jack Black.
Jack Black, and he was working in a record store with a man from Say Anything, and I'm forgetting everybody's name. What's her name from A Different World? Lenny Kravitz's ex. She was in it.
Lisa Bonet.
Lisa Bonet. She was in it. She played the love interest. It's a good movie. He said it's no, not School of Rock. John Cusack was in it. Yeah, it's not School of Rock. High Frequency. Thank you, Black Magic.
Oh, that was actually a decent movie.
Yeah, I like that movie. And he said he said hit him with you wearing a Cosby sweater. A Cosby sweater.
Isn't that where he told that dude to get your patchouli stink out of my store? I took that.
In one version, hit him with a phone.
I took that bad personal. That was during my patchouli phase. So my food co-op patchouli phase when that movie came out. So I took that shit personal.
All right, man. Let me see this hand, Geechee. You taking a long time to get it organized. You said
my
it's
hands
bad.
ain't working. My hands ain't working today. I'm trying to spread the cards. It's not working.
All right, here you go. Let's see. What is this?
Hold on, man. I'm struggling with trying to spread the cards.
And then there's a glare on the card. I can't see the cards, Geechee.
My hand broke, man. Hold on, man.
Pause, just in case.
You can see them now?
There's a glare right in the middle though. Hold on. How many diamonds is that? All right, is that 2 diamonds?
Now, remember we paying Joker, 2 of diamonds, 2 of spades too. By the way,
Joker, Deuce, yeah.
Yeah,
or
Joker,
2 of diamonds too.
Yeah, 2 of diamonds and 2 of spades.
All right,
so it's like 4 jokers.
Ugh, this hand is ugh.
I know.
Yeah, I don't like this hand at all. I don't know. I mean, just because I'm great, I'll say I'll get 1. But I'm saying we got to go board. Unless you got a crazy hand, we got to look. Yeah, Zinzi's with me on that board.
Yeah, you definitely going board, and I don't even know where you're getting your 1 from.
Just because I'm great. That's why. I just know I'm gonna get 1.
Yeah, but
I don't see 1. I don't know. I'm just saying it's just gonna have to make it magically happen. But I really don't see 1.
Maybe you can get your jack in if you play it right, but the queen ain't going nowhere. The Queen of Hearts ain't going nowhere.
The Queen of Hearts isn't going anywhere. I mean, it would just take some finagle. I don't know, but it is board. Yeah, this is a terrible hand. I don't appreciate that at all.
It's the worst.
You're starting the day off all wrong.
Listen, stuff happens. Your partner might be
RKF Master, you cannot count the jack in that. You can't be counting the jack in that. You only have a handful of spades, and that's the highest one you got, and you got every suit.
I mean, yeah, you can't even cut early, and then even if people start playing spades, one time they run out, your jack is a wrap.
The jack has been gone.
Especially if you're playing with the ace, ace spade high, then maybe you can get a jack in, but
yeah.
I don't know anybody who play like that unless they're on the internet.
Right. So, all right. You're welcome, everybody.
Diallo, you really left-handed?
Yes. Sinister.
All the way around left-handed. Oh, that's deep. I'm only left-handed for writing and batting. I bat left-handed and throw right-handed and write left-handed.
I used to be a switch hitter. I could bat.
Let me tell you something. Left-handed people are more likely to die in industrial accidents or be injured and maimed throughout their lives because this is a right-handed oriented world.
Yep.
And we are the only group that you can still, actively ignore or persecute without any consequence.
Oh, damn.
Persecute?
Yeah, people don't understand.
I didn't know left-handed was
even when I say it, people are like, what?
But persecute though?
Huh?
Persecute?
Well, we kind of exploded. It's kind of like when people, the word left-handed people were considered sinister or inherently evil. So yeah, persecuted. I came out as a left-handed person. When I came out, I decided to live left-handed and proud. No parades, no flags, no nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if you I don't know if that's a segue into the first starting with the craziest story, then walking back from there with your moans and militia.
Can you call something crazy if it's pretty, consistent throughout the culture?
True. I guess that's to Jared's ironic or irony argument. So maybe it's not crazy.
Oh man, somebody sent a whole comment, a long comment or email to me about that, where they showed the updated definition of the term and all of this, and trying to tell me I'm wrong about how the term is today used and defined. And I said, well, if we just gonna if that's the game, cool. And I'm not trying to die on the hill of irony, but if we just going to be, if we're just going to allow people to abuse the term, a term, and then eventually change its definition, I mean, that's cool. I guess it really doesn't really matter, but it could lead to some complications at some point here or the other. But I'm just going off of the way it was initially defined, and its synonyms are sarcasm, not bad luck. So, but. It's okay. I still blame Alanis Morissette. This is look, if people are paying attention, it is. If people are paying attention now to the current ongoing beef between Spotify, and Universal Music Group, you can see that this is always a colossal struggle for who controls pop culture and therefore the early stage development of consciousness of young people. That's what they're really fighting over. Who's going to, so Universal Music Group, not Spotify, TikTok, UMG versus TikTok. Universal Music Group pulled all of its music from TikTok. There's, I think, 36% of the music on TikTok. And because TikTok apparently isn't paying them enough royalties, and of course Universal claims that they're trying to defend their artists, but that's false. They're trying to defend their pockets, and I think that is also false. They're trying to defend their market share over the consciousness, particularly the political consciousness of forthcoming generations, who would prove to be the biggest threats to these people's class and race interests. So all that to say, when they promoted at one point years and years ago, Alanis Morissette's abuse of the term and they demonstrated we can popularly apply an artist to redefine the language, the most dominant language on the planet. Because in that song, as I continue to argue, there is not one example of actual irony in that entire song, unless she intentionally did that, in which case the song itself would be ironic. But
wait, what? So is that the song when she said,
"It's like rain on your wedding day,"
and that other one, "Smoke My Cigarette"? That's a whole nother song.
I don't know what that is.
I got one hand.
It's like rain on your wedding.
Young. I don't know why you be trying to talk.
I know Alanis Morissette. Don't act like I don't know her. That's another
I'm not
song.
even talking to you, Geechee. I'm talking to Jared, man. I don't know why you trying to. You got to
Only
keep
old
it in
ears can hear.
You got to keep it in the from stanky leg forward.
What you talking?
You know, like you can't go back too far in culture and history with these young folks.
I know,
man.
Isn't It Ironic? And I know the other one, the one when she's smoking a cigarette. Because it reminds me of Tweet Mom smoking a cigarette. Everybody,
you know, good. I'll give you a virtual head pat. Yes, you know.
Listen, man.
So
listen, y'all.
I'm just saying.
Y'all need to be careful. Y'all dad's age, and let's get into the story with Moons. So
just trigger warnings to everybody, because you just told me about this a little while ago, and I'm already.
Just be careful how you talk to these young people. All right. I put a link in the story. This is Diallo's lead, but I end up quickly searching and finding the video, and
I don't want to. What are we playing here? What do you want me to pull up? Though?
Oh, you're not playing. That's just the link to the little story on the news story. So you're not playing the video. We're definitely not gonna play the video at all.
Well, there's a news video on here.
Oh, you don't have to play the video. You can just kind of just go to the story. I mean, if you want to play it, I didn't see the video.
I don't want to. I'm following I'm just trying to follow my instructions and push the right button here. Okay, so I don't want to get yelled at by you or the chat. This you know.
Right. So I don't know if Diallo had more background of the story, but this person, I don't even know his name actually.
Can I just read the headline real quick?
Absolutely.
To get everybody on the same page? A Pennsylvania man arrested after allegedly killing his father and displaying his decapitated head on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Good Friday morning, everybody. Okay, go ahead. My bad.
So Diallo, like you saw the story. What you got? What happened over here?
Okay. This is what more so everyone's focusing on the fact that he held his father's head, decapitated head. He decapitated his father, and the mother actually came home and found it, because of course when he was on YouTube, people thought it was a hoax and everything. So it'd been hours, but the mother came home and found the father's body and decapitated head and alerted the authorities. And eventually YouTube had taken it down after it had gotten over 5,000 views, and they found him on a U.S. National Guard base. And he was taken peacefully, even though he was armed to the teeth, decapitated his father's head, held his head up on YouTube, and then went to a U.S. military or National Guard installation to provoke and stated that he was armed and ready to start an armed rebellion, and called on everyone else who supported him to begin this armed rebellion against the federal government, because he's a patriot. And that's something funny that I observed when I was studying political science back in the 90s, that white folks would be pro would consider themselves pro-patriotic and pro-nation, but anti-government. So they hated the government, but they loved the country, and they considered they loved the country more than anyone. But what stands out more than the horrendous, grotesque incident is the fact that when he basically articulated his manifesto, just like the grocery store shooters and like many other mass shooters, he articulated verbatim the right-wing issues. He called Black Lives Matter out by name. Socialist. He talked about the LGBTQ. He talked about immigrants, transgenders. He spoke to every single one of the ongoing right-wing reactionary issues. Every single one destroying the country. He also talked about the conspiracy, the leftist conspiracy to destroy America, to weaken men, the whole manosphere, patriarchal. So even more so than the grotesque action is that his ideology, his grounded belief system is not only resonate with the majority of white males, there is a strong component of black reactionary, some even call themselves right-wing, who articulate this reality. And what's even more interesting is that those who have been engaged in what is called stochastic terrorism. There are individuals going on the media every single day, from Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle's homie, Dave Chappelle's other homie, Elon Musk and Twitter, the so-called dark web, the intellectual dark web. What's his name? They call him Kermit the Frog, Jordan Peterson. And so there's Andrew Tate, Kanye's homeboys, Charlie Kirk. And so there's this whole environment of formerly Alex Jones, all the people over there at I think it's Rumble. And so they're out here articulating these great replacement theories, southern border crisis invasion theory, the destruction of manhood. They've been articulating, they say that number one, January 6th was a bunch of secret Antifa people, or that January 6th was patriots trying to retake the country. They say two contradictory things that go. So this ideology, truly fascist, right-wing, reactionary, ultra-nationalist, but anti-government, internally contradictory and irrational and shameless ideology is deeply embedded. And the very people who he gets on here, it would be equivalent to someone goes out and does something crazy and says, well, veganism, atheism, socialism, and articulates everything that I teach, and then goes and does something. And I'm like, well, I ain't got nothing to do with it when I've been backed by billionaires and the wealthiest, most powerful individuals to get out here to amplify my message. So what this guy articulated, his ideological foundations, white boys are running up into black churches and writing these manifestos, running up into black grocery stores, committing acts of heinous terrorism. And remember, there was another MAGA guy who killed his whole family, and they put out, except for one daughter who wasn't home at the time. And the right wing comes out and says, well, the Biden drove him crazy. The left drove him crazy.
Yeah, he said that. He said that about Biden. Also,
so
he said they made him take out student loans.
Right.
Yeah.
There was one guy who did the mass shooting to kill black people in the grocery store. They said that black people were all given $750,000 by the government.
Right.
Joe Rogan, the most popular podcaster in the world, would talk about, he would have people on there who promote the the 1380 formula, where black people are only 13% of the population, commit 80% of the crimes, and things like these reactionary. And there are whole YouTube channels. And there was just recently a right-wing YouTuber who basically said, I quit because I'm trying to create content and all my audience wants is me to promote Black crime.
So
where they just find and they scour the internet for Black people committing crimes, and they just share this content so that white people, the biggest criminals who's sitting on the biggest pot of looted resources, want to portray Black, and that's all they consume. And so this incident is simply a symptom or a cold sore, a superficial scar or a superficial boil that is indicative of a deep-seated systemic ideology that is, where they can, I like to talk about them how they try to talk about us, that is corrupting the minds of white youth and white people in general.
So I wonder if you watched the whole thing, but there's times where he was saying things that even we might agree with in terms of redistribution. And he called for like FBI and all these other people to be, killed or whatever the case would be.
Well,
but real quick, but then he starts again, as you said, he has his anti-communist rhetoric. He compares BLM to socialists. He said they're socialists. He talked about, then he switched to the defunding of the police in Philly is the reason why crime is high. And then he talks about Antifa. So he goes these different places. And I wonder how you think maybe Black Twitter or other people are going to respond to taking clips and kind of advocating for this guy to, getting rid of the racists per se, and not really listening to the whole thing and seeing how he's pretty much everywhere. I don't know if you feel like he will be misquoted, taken out of context, and then used as some type of.
Well, the right wing is already doing that. I can't imagine Black Twitter wanting to do anything besides just, denouncing the grotesque and obscenity of his crimes, or maybe speak about how he could commit such a heinous crimes and then go fully armed to the teeth into a U.S. military installation and still be taken into custody alive, where Black people can't, where are still being murdered over basic traffic, or if not murdered, assaulted and injured and maimed on traffic stops. I think that's probably as far as Black Twitter will get into it. But I would like to speak to, where he talked about the redistribution of wealth and how the workers, a lot of times these right-wing reactionaries will use rhetoric and assert things that we might think like, wow, he's on to something. But we have to be very careful with that because, remember the Koch brothers wanted to do prison reform. And their prison reform was a backdoor for libertarian deregulation. So they were like, well, one of the biggest, they want to take down the entire welfare state. But in order to take down the welfare state, we're going to focus on the most heinous parts of the state, the prison and law enforcement judicial system. And we're like, and then we all and they had some rappers and shit and prominent black activists who sit hand in hand with the goddamn Koch brothers and say, yeah, we do need to reform prison. And then you find out rooted in their criminal justice reform policies is the destruction of penalties for tax evasion, the reduction of or non-enforcement of tax enforcement, of corporate law, and for white collar criminals, and embezzlement and other white collar crimes and regulations for the elite. And they were working on reducing enforcement and or completely erasing white collar crimes. And at that same time, the crimes for petty theft, the 3 strikes laws, they were just using that rhetoric. So a lot of times these evil motherfuckers will they have no real foot to stand on. So they'll run out and get legitimate sufferers and legitimate causes in order to coat their cause. It's like the old school Hitler public health. So Hitler would come out and say, we want to have public health. And we're going to he sent out these vans that were mobile clinics. Some of the first major public health innovations that are used today in society for communicable diseases were developed by the Nazi regime. And they would go out and take chest x-rays for tuberculosis and do blood tests. And Hitler really wanted to focus on public health and get on top of a TB outbreak at the time. And really, he was collecting data. He was collecting information on individuals for racial purity. And then his public health idea, we say public health, we all agree with public health, but his idea of public health is the infirm, the people with congenital diseases, people with communicable diseases should be eliminated, and people with impure blood. So when a right winger says redistribution, they're taking away our future, the rule, they mean some insidious Jewish cabal. They don't mean capitalism. They think capitalism is great if we could just get these insidious Jews and the welfare blacks and from welfare. So they really mean, so it's not the same. So even when they use this rhetoric and they are people who are basically dropouts from society, they're not talking about transforming society. So when you want to make transformation, you got to make sure it's leftist, progressive, just, not right-wing, reactionary, fascist transformation or reform.
Yeah,
I just want to let me just add this real quick to what Diallo's saying from the book Meme Wars, where a lot of this is also generated and funneled. A lot of this energy is generated, funneled, distributed. The book talks about where a lot of this is they have this line where some of the online spaces where they meet, where the author describes the people gathered as some hated Jews, while others hated Jews a little, but hated black people more. And of course, this is one of the memes of hanging the Capitol that they use. But just to supplement with some of what Diallo was saying there, and I agree that this is why I keep saying it. I'll just quickly add this, that I keep making this point about the civilizational crisis of methodology, and where more than ever people are being challenged to understand and interpret how they're reaching their conclusions. And part of the problem is that even with lunatics like this, they do start. I mean, Meme Wars talks about this too. They do start. There is this fundamental kernel of truth. There is an exploitive reality. There is an abusive relationship between a ruling elite and the rest of us. So they start accurately with that. But then, as you said, they start filling it all in with, well, it's that group. And if we could get rid of that group, then this would work more properly and this level of exploitation wouldn't exist. And they're dragged, and we talk about it all the time. This is one of the fundamental impetus of this show, is that there are black people who are taking a fundamental core truth and then applying to it very white supremacist conservative analyses. And this is I have so many inappropriate comments and jokes, but I'll just go ahead, Geechee.
But I think that person, not saying that 19 Keys and all those people would do this type of thing, but the language and being able to use words that make us feel like they're on our side, and then again landing plane far on the right. I wonder, it's two comments I wanted to see if we could pull up and respond to. But Geechee, this is why people want to tie fascism to socialism, due to the use of social issues by fascists to go about defending capitalism. So I don't know if it's Diallo just talked about Hitler, but yeah, what do y'all think about this?
No. But But attempts to tie socialism to fascism are largely because
you just don't read, beloved.
Pretty much.
I don't think it's just an issue of people being ill-informed. I know a lot of people who are well-informed, statesmen and elected officials and scholars and public intellectuals, who also say that capitalism is synonymous with freedom. Capitalism doesn't just mean free markets; it means democratic societies. And
that is ill-informed.
Was called the free world. And we see, communism or socialism is bread lines and theft of people's wealth and given to the unworthy. So I think it's not just simply people not being well informed. I've known people who go and become formally educated and still promote myths and that this propaganda, socialism is regressive and fascist and repressive, while capitalism is all about freedom and democracy.
Oh no, I'm not. I don't take Hiram's gif or whatever to mean that this is not an issue of literacy. It's not. It's an issue of what is read, how it's read, how it's so absolutely. This is people can read plenty and they're still be ill-informed. Bob Marley's quote, "I don't have education, only inspiration. If I was educated, I'd be a damn fool," I think applies here. So yeah, there's a lot of effort put and ink spilled in the old style of writing where people could read and be intellectual forever and be as ill-informed as anyone who would reach the conclusion that socialism equates to fascism. That would be my point.
Well, now people think, well, I mean, Ricky just said liberalism equals fascism, and is conflating liberalism and
Wait.
Read the quote. Wait. Let's read if we're going to respond to it because we're going out of order. Are you breaking the rules? But if
no, I'm not breaking rules.
No, I'm talking to Geechee. I'm talking to Geechee. I'm saying Geechee's breaking the rules.
I said I was,
but at least
into the segment.
At least read it and then respond. Let's get the whole thing and then go.
Neoliberalism.
Hold on, Diallo. Can we read the comment first? Let's read it out.
I think what should be named that liberalism creates the conditions of organizing both the left and the far right. Look at Latin America, and liberalism breeds fascism. And you saying you disagree, Diallo?
Yeah, I disagree with that entire statement.
Why?
And how?
Put it back up and let's go line by line.
Line by line, bar by bar.
First of all, neoliberalism and liberalism are not the same thing. Can we agree to that?
Yes.
It's a very yes.
Can we agree?
Well.
Variation.
No.
Huh?
They are different, but they're meant
to be different, right?
Liberalism, as popularly defined against the right wing and Republicans here, is certainly different from what neoliberalism is.
Okay,
but I think liberalism in its classic, if I could just finish the thought, if liberalism is taken in its more classical political sense, as I understand and remember it, then neoliberalism wouldn't so much be a departure as it would be an updated mechanism or a rebranding of a process that was meant to do the same thing, which is to liberally remove government oversight and privatize as much as possible, allowing private corporations and entities to take control over the apparatus of government. So just so we're clear, if I'm wrong, at least you're clear of how I'm understanding what is being discussed.
Okay. And as far as organizing the left, neoliberalism and the leftist ideology, leftist organization, what left is organized by the neoliberal?
That's not how I read it. That's not how I read it. It's because the statement says
of organizing both the left and the right. What conditions has the neoliberalism created to organize
I'm gonna answer.
The left?
If I don't get interrupted, I'll actually complete the answer. Neoliberalism, as I'm reading it, creates the context in which, again, austerity. You're shaking your head. I haven't even finished.
I can't talk or move. Okay.
No, I'm just saying. My point. The point in asking you. What? Remember though, Diallo. The point in asking you to stop talking is so that you hear the point that others are making. When you're shaking your head before I'm finishing, you're conveying I'm not listening. I've already reached my conclusion. I'm just telling you. I'm just helping you. I'm just helping you. But okay. But the point though is that I'm reading it as neoliberalism and its politics creates the conditions against which both the left and far right are building their efforts.
And let me ask this question, Diallo. I'm
not sure how that's wrong, but okay.
Diallo, whenever you said
you added a lot of words that weren't there.
Let me ask you a question, Diallo.
It's right there.
Can I ask you a
You
question,
added some
Diallo?
words. I know what's right there, and I
But
heard
Diallo,
what
can I ask you a question or not?
made a slight motion. You
Can I ask
added
you a
some
question or
words
not,
that weren't
Diallo?
there, but go off.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely, as if
Thank
I
you.
could stop you.
I mean, hell, you sound like you're stopping me now.
Okay,
But
no,
listen,
you can't ask me a question. Let's see how
fuck
that
that.
works. Just for
So when you say, when you listen, man, when you say you got to be careful,
push that button and see what would happen, and nothing.
When you say you got to be careful, what were you meaning by that? When you say, brother, people like this who speak in this rhetoric, you have to be careful because they sound like they're on your side, blah, blah, blah. When you say that, what are you meaning?
What I mean by that is a lot of the right wing, a lot of the reactionary, a lot of racists say things that resonate with Black people, with oppressed people. A lot of predatory, racist, right wing people and capitalists will say things that resonate with other oppressed people when they are part of the oppressor groups. And
so stop there. So stop there.
Liberate, but
so stop there. So can you see creates these conditions of organizing both the left and the far right? Could you see how that connects?
I don't understand creating conditions of organizing. I don't understand that statement. Creates conditions of organizing. What does that mean? Maybe y'all can explain that since y'all are the Ricky.
I'm telling you, I just told you. As I read it, what Ricky is saying is the conditions in which the left and the right find themselves organizing are created by neoliberalism.
Which is why you said be careful, Diallo. You just said be careful. You got to be careful with people who speak like this. Right? You don't see that connect?
See, what I read, the way I read it when she says, and I'm not going to add words, I think what should be named is that neoliberalism creates these conditions of organizing. So what it reads to me is that the neoliberals are controlling. The neoliberals are directing both the left and the far right. And I don't know why she said far right instead of just the right. I don't know if she's being specific as if the simple right wing or the centrist rights are not or are excluded from this, or is it the full spectrum of the right? So from what it reads to me is that she's suggesting that both the left and the far right are being controlled, create conditions for organizing, are being directed by where
words, but you keep putting control in there.
The left, I would say, does act in opposition to neoliberalism, where the far right serves to serve it. But from what I'm reading here, it's more because, and I tie that to another statement I'd like to share where she's says some other fallacious thing. So I think she might be using the term left rather loosely, just like someone might say the Democratic Party is the left, or is she really talking about the legitimate left, the legitimate left wing, or is she talking about people who are, as you were saying, Jared, where you were suggesting that she's using more in a more popular context, the term liberal and the term neoliberal. Is she using this in the popular, or is she using these ideological and political terms as what they truly mean?
Well, Ricky's always invited.
Come on here for clarity instead of
he's always invited to come clear that thing up. But
she can come on here and clarify, which she won't.
Now you calling her out? What's wrong with this guy?
I said she hate from outside the club. It don't matter. I hate from outside the club often too. I'm not, we have that in common.
We got
like she says, the Democrats and Republicans have a lot together. They're the same. Me and Ricky the same.
All right.
She don't want to admit it. They say opposites attract. Same repels.
Anyway, so we want to go to do you want to go to your city, Chi-Town mayor ceasefire, or should we go to some
nothing to say on that.
military propaganda? And which one y'all want to go to next?
Don't come to Chicago. Neither one of y'all can hang here. Y'all stay out of Chicago business.
I don't know if your ass can hang in Chicago, to be honest.
I can't. God damn it.
The way you be on these online streets, I don't know, brother. Goodness gracious. Let's go to Chi-Town since you already over there and you already been talking that cold cash shit. So lead us again, Diallo. This your city. You got Brandon Johnson and you got Chicago voting for Hamas. So what happened there?
Well, initially, this is some shit. This is how you play politics. You play around. Initially, the city council, the alderman, and the mayor basically made a statement of solidarity with Israel as Israel was suffering in Israel time of strife and suffering. The city, which outraged a lot of intelligent and good people, and pretty much satisfied a lot of establishment folks here. And so people started saying, well, goddamn, we elected Brandon Johnson. He was supposed to be liberal, not neoliberal. He was supposed to be a liberal, democratic, pro-union, pro-worker administration after back-to-back reactionary and all Democrat, reactionary, anti-union, anti-worker administrations. And so some people, not me, but a lot of Brandon Johnson supporters, I say as a Brandon Johnson supporter, a lot of Brandon Johnson supporters were taken aback and genuinely surprised, like, how could he support Israel and be a Zionist? And so after a lot of pushing, a lot of protests, a lot of people bum rushing City Hall, and they're having to shut down city council meetings, and Brandon Johnson being hounded, he finally came out with some flaccid, weak booty ass call for a ceasefire. But again, it's like the ICJ. It's another, just like announced. Chicago is now the largest city in the United States to formally call for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and Israel, to call for a ceasefire and take a stance to say, hey, we oppose the violence. They acknowledge the massive death, which is also for that level of government for the third largest city and the biggest imperialist neoliberal state country in the world. So it's there. And it's funny because people have been asking me, oh, what do you think about saying that what do I think about what's going on here with the immigration crisis and all this shit? But I think it was the appropriate thing to do, but I can't celebrate it because it was way too little, way too late. And this is a byproduct of, this is true, quote unquote, democracy, because this isn't necessarily that the alderman, the city council, and the mayor had a change of heart. This is more so of public pressure, being able to move public officials to act and carry out the will of the citizens. So this is how politics is supposed to work. So it is a good civics lesson in terms of, we don't have to just rest when these motherfuckers do something wrong and we just like, oh, this is too bad. There are several coalitions in this city that was like, no, we denounced the city making a public statement of support for Israel, and we demand that the city make a public call for a ceasefire. And this is purely I don't think Brandon Johnson or the Chicago City Council should take credit for this, but the grassroots folks on this issue deserve all the credit for moving the politicians to actually be representative of their cities and carry out the will of the people.
So Seattle and Chicago are the only two cities right now in the U.S. that has done this, or?
I ain't been keeping count. I think that people should call for a cease Zionism. I think they might as well take it to the head. You know, it's like just like in apartheid South Africa, people said they didn't just call for a cessation of open aggression in Israel, in South Africa. They called for an end to apartheid. So I think an end to Zionism should be the call. And I understand the immediacy of the ceasefire and the necessity to cease fire, but that should be married to a cease Zionism. We didn't call for a ceasefire in South Africa when there was an enormous amount of violence, several massacres, and them shooting into peaceful demonstrations and they were aided. The South Africans were bringing in white militias and weekend warriors, and Israel provided South Africa, apartheid South Africa, with all the weapons and support it needed, up to and including a nuclear bomb. and we didn't call for a ceasefire in South Africa. We called for, or there were calls for ceasefire and the end to violence, but that was always married to, and that was subordinate to an end to apartheid.
And so it was also targeted at
Zionism,
African revolutionaries.
Zionism.
So
because the status quo is also genocidal.
So one of the corporate owned media outlets said that y'all over there calling for ceasefire in Gaza and y'all only need to do a ceasefire in Chicago.
Which is stupid as fuck, because we literally have an old organization here called Ceasefire
Chicago, and there's ceasefire in the hood everywhere.
Yep, Baltimore everywhere. Yep.
It's disrespectful. A lot of formerly incarcerated people, a lot of ex-gang members are here on the ground. We even had OTO on. There are people here grinding, literally putting themselves between warring factions of well-armed and vicious gangs here in Chicago. So to pretend like there isn't an ongoing grassroots organizing and ongoing actions against the violence that's claiming our youth on a daily basis in Chicago is an insincere and bullshit. And it's just a Zionist lie, where Zionists are trying to take the weight away from calling for a ceasefire to pretending like, oh yeah, that old thing where we protest police atrocities, and they say, oh, you protest when police kill somebody, but you don't do nothing when blacks kill other blacks. That's a goddamn lie.
That's a good point.
It's a goddamn lie. So we can just dismiss that. Oh, we got an activist here, Q. Yeah. He's saying it because, I mean, we got a brother here who I've seen him myself, step out and put his own body on the line to stop violence in Chicago. Even though he teaches martial arts. So he teaches you how to,
So Jerry,
using both hands in my land, so we got some anti-violence activists living here on the south side of Chicago in the group chat. So that's bullshit.
So Jerry, as you see the video behind you, the demonstrations, do you feel like the on the ground demonstrations have shifted the U.S.'s opinion, I guess the citizens' opinion on the conflict or on the genocide? And what would you say, like just the U.S. and cities advocate for ceasefire? What does that mean about the U.S. in particular? Like the fact that I
don't know. It's a good question. I don't know to what extent it's the protests or the protests themselves a response to a broader increased understanding of what's been happening there, connected to this being, in my lifetime, what I can, from my memory as a distant outsider, the most overt expression of Zionist logic that we're seeing happening now. So I think that combination, the last couple of decades, I mean, so I see more of it as a sort of a broader narrative shift that has occurred, that has challenged Zionists to struggle and regroup. And the protests are a reflection of that. And again, in addition to this being that increased level of overt callousness. So where I always start to get concerned when I think about these kinds of moments, although I recognize this as different, is where will that energy be encouraged to go? And that's where, when we start to focus on whether it's elections or political organization or something else, that the concerns reemerge. Because if, again, and we're seeing it already, the narrative can be attempt to be adjusted so that, all this anger you all feel about what's happening in Palestine, well, your best way of dealing with it is to come back to Biden, or something like that. But I honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I follow it closely enough. I don't think I'm enough of an expert on this situation. But that would be my quick assessment, that I think it's been a narrative shift over the last couple of decades, in part because of a lot of grassroots media and activism and organization in this country and around the world, getting the word out and supporting Palestinian and other solidarist efforts to make people more aware. But yeah.
So I guess in terms of even the narration or the narrative shift, I want to go to this post that I had up of the 3 Black folks from Georgia who was killed in conflict, and just the conversation around veterans. I don't know if you can go and see the comments where the one brother was saying like we should just honor them, and I'm like, well, honor them? Why? Like, you can weep for them and feel like them.
Well, big RE96 says we should honor them. You never know what their home lives were like or what their reason for what was for joining. Most of us join for stability, not because we give AF about the wars or a country that abuses us. I love your page, but please don't use these soldiers for this. They probably only joined because they needed to. I admit I'm sympathetic to that argument. I have to admit that. I witnessed it. I saw it. I experienced it. And I don't know anything about these 3 other than what you're telling us here, that they died in combat. But so I don't know about honoring them. I don't know, but I feel a kind of way. I feel sympathetic to that comment. I mean, I know
go to the response, because there's exchange. I don't know if they can if you can see.
Okay. Yeah. Honor is taking it too far. Weep is more appropriate. As I said, in the post, I really hurt for us to remain being cannon fodder for white genocidal militarist war criminals. Yes, we know the reasons for joining is how most of us are forced into survival economies and behaviors. Maybe read what you wrote and think a little bit before you react. Stability isn't something that requires the murder and instability of other Black and brown people. And the reason why Black and brown people are unstable is because of capitalism and imperialism, which is what they are going over there to enforce for the biggest capitalist imperialists, and imperialists honoring them for that would be backwards. Man, you wrote a lot here, man.
Yeah, you can skip through that. But then there's another comment where a brother was saying,
it was like, I don't want to read, beloved.
I mean, I didn't know I signed up for all that. I'm over here struggling a little bit. I'm like, man, my bad. I'm just like,
then there's another brother who also kind of said something about the honor, and then he says he's just supporting it and it's nothing political. I'm not into politics, because I shared with him. I said, maybe you can go and take your politics on your page and honor them, but I'm not here. Like, I can weep for them, but again, and then when you start hearing her family, like one of them voluntarily joined. Her squad.
Well, everybody voluntarily joins. There's no draft, so it's a poverty draft.
What I mean, like, I'm sorry, voluntarily deployed. My bad. Voluntarily deployed.
I don't know. But again, I don't know any of the details. You get bonuses for deployment. Your pay doubles in certain situations with hazardous duty pay. I mean, I could look. I'm not. I've been very clear in my own experience. I was remarkably consistent even at the time saying this. I wrote home and I told my mother during Desert Storm, if I'm killed out here, do not allow them to put an American flag on my coffin. I reject it. But I also, I was clear also that if I am killed in combat, it is because I was caught in a bad spot at a bad time, and whoever killed me had every right to do so, given why I was put in their country in the first place. So I was very clear on all of that. But I was also clear even back then that myself included did not join the military to wave a flag or go conquer somebody. Nope. Nor would I have been fighting anybody because I wanted to fight them. I would have been doing it as what really I think ends up happening in the moment is that you end up fighting for the person next to you. You're not even thinking about, nobody was out there like, I don't think many people are out there waving the flag in their mind, talking about I'm spreading American democracy and capitalism. They're thinking I'm fighting for myself. I'm fighting to get home. I'm fighting to get my brother or sister home next to me, and that's it. And then, but they have all been encouraged or induced into this condition. Mm-hmm. By the context out of which that they were all, myself included, again, railroaded into that situation. So I all that to say, I'm sympathetic with that comment. I even as I understand where you're trying to go with the post.
Yeah. So I think I'm not saying that they knew in particular what they're. Well, I think they do to a relative degree know what they're getting into.
I don't.
Fashion, right?
I really don't.
But the thought that this is what I have to do to change my material condition, right? As I kind of say, some survival economy or to survive. I don't think majority of them are getting their patriotic reasons. I do think they believe these people are bad, or these people fighting these people will help us as a larger country, but definitely help me as individual.
I don't know. There is some of that, but even that is propagandized assaults on consciousness that are part of the colonial experience. The one, and I know this is an anecdotal one-off, but the one that I always go back to is when I was doing that counter recruitment work. Shout out to the late John Judge, and that young brother that I was talking to out of Southeast DC, and I'm trying to convince him not to risk his life for a college education, and that there are programs and other avenues that most people are not told about that you can get to college without going into the military with the similar benefits. And his response was, I get shot at in the street. I shoot at people in the street now. Why wouldn't I do that over there with the promise of what I don't get here? At least if I do it over there, I will get a GI Bill and healthcare and a meal and a house and a place to, and all of that stuff. So, and I needed a colleague, more veteran in that work, to come in and help me in that moment. I was stuck, because in that moment I was like, keep your head down and good luck. Like, I mean, it's
so yeah. So there was another comment that I wanted to go to. How about we honor them as American military members who lost their lives? So when that brother was responding,
I don't want that.
But that's just what I'm saying.
I reject that.
But at the end, I mean, not the end, but in a reply, he said what you said. Like, I'm going to honor the people who joined with me and before me, because essentially he's saying, yeah, I'm fighting for the brothers next to me. I hear that.
When I hear honor, as I wrote home, don't put me on no memorial wall. I reject that. Don't use me as part of the commemorative effort to get more people to go fight for this nonsense. That's why that's a slight little difference for me that I want to clarify. Like, I'm having a specific empathetic or whatever reaction to those three, given what I understand to be why they ended up there. But I was always very clear, even at 18, don't take that flag. I told my mother, do not take the flag that they're going to try to give. Don't put it on my coffin. I don't want no parts of it. I don't want no parts of it. So I tell people now that thank you for your service. Don't thank me. Don't thank me for the prison sentence that I went through. Correct the conditions that put me there. But at the same time, I just feel bad. Look, but I recognize I felt bad for the people that would Look, I didn't see real combat, so I'm speaking secondhand on that too. But from those who I've talked to, almost all of them exclusively say, no matter how much shit you talk, you don't know how you're going to react until the bullets are flying. You don't know what you're not thinking about all these broader politics, and most of them don't know. Most of them are 18, 19 years old. That's why they get us when we're young. We don't know what the hell is going on. We don't fully appreciate what's happening. And we think somehow that we're likely to come out of it. We don't have that I'm old enough to recognize the what is it? The temporality or whatever of this situation.
So there's very minimum Smedley Butlers and Geronimo Pratts in there that could recognize, even I guess while they end or towards their ending in there, they can recognize that this shit don't make sense. An example, my mother came to Costa Rica with my sister, her husband, the family, and I remember talking about stuff because I was saying like, yeah, I might go to Cuba next. They were like, Cuba, it's dangerous over there, and I was like, well, how do you know? You been there before? They was like, oh no. And then I started talking about like some type of war stuff or military stuff. and you could tell they got quiet, but they wasn't really responding. They didn't really respect what I was saying. Then my brother-in-law was like, well, actually, when we was in Afghanistan, we actually learned that there's a lot of shit that we do that just waste time. So we will talk with the soldiers and tell them to get out the water, and then we will dump a bunch of bullets in the water. And then that to him made it was like, oh, that was wasteful, and we was just over there for no reason or whatever the thing, or for the wrong reason. And then they hearing that from somebody who's actually there. So you don't think there's a lot of stories of people going over there to seeing some contradictions and maybe so blinding their eye to the contradictions because of the material conditions and the things that they're going to get. Because when they come home, they're going to be celebrated, pat on the back. I mean, I'm not saying that all veterans are treated, with respect or the right way, but they having some type of comfort that they're going, and they do have to see some visible contradictions that either they internalize or deal with in a certain.
Of course they do. That's why there's these enormous rates of self-removal from life among the veterans who come back, of homelessness and houselessness and PTSD and all other kinds of trauma, even of all kinds of domestic violence. And this is the point I was making in the earlier segment, that they do confront all these contradictions. They see the contractors and the private businesses replacing them, doing the military work over there and making 2-3 times the pay of the soldiers who are right next to them. They see all of that. They come home and join on. But my point is again, my point of the previous segment is that they're given right-wing solutions, right-wing suggestions and prescriptions to these problems, and so. But it's not that they don't. But I do think that they see those contradictions and they recognize all of that.
So Diallo, I don't know if you're the right one to comfort a family, but with one of the Moffats, one of the sisters who was killed, her parents was saying that she don't want any escalation and violence after this. Even though Biden said we're gonna retaliate, her parents are saying she don't want any escalation. She don't want any more American troops killed. Her daughter just celebrated her 23rd birthday overseas 9 days before she was killed. Like, how would you talk to them through the contradictions of, and how you feel about what her daughter was going over there to do or participating in, and how to, I guess, wrestle with that or deal with that? Does that make sense?
Well, I agree with I'm in solidarity with anybody. You know, it's funny how we can talk and try to be sympathetic to people saying, oh, these young people with instruments of mass murder or don't understand what they're doing or what they got into. And can we as people who live in the United States, as American citizens, imagine what it's like to have idiotic children with mass murder machines walking down your street. They don't speak your language. They don't know your customs, and they don't even respect or understand the motivations of who sent them there. And we talk about that to be sympathetic to the soldiers, but not to be sympathetic to the people whose soil they're standing on. How insane that is. And then when people always talk about the gun control debate, we shouldn't have instruments of war. Citizens in America shouldn't be able to own instruments of war. And I'm like, but we think like the United States is literally not part of the world. Like these arbitrary, artificial borders really mean something. And we talk about American lives. Well, how many American, as if there's an American life, as if someone's anatomy and physiology can be American versus non-American, as if their blood, as if their organ systems, as if their shattered bones and contaminated flesh is American flesh as opposed. So my position is, I think it's quite noble that the mother would take this stand. If I was in that same position, I would say the same thing. You know, especially speaking out of pain and loss of a child for no purpose at all, but to advance the interests of some insidious small group of people. So I would say to whoever said that, don't carry out or advance or aggress in my name. I think that's good. But like I said before, these people are fodder. number one. Number two, as I read the details of the story, it looked like a friendly fire situation, because there was some type of mix-up with the U.S. drone that was sent out on an armed U.S. drone that was sent out on reconnaissance or to target, and the drone was returning, and then the drone had some engagement with some other airborne object. So to me, it looked like friendly fire. So even as Genocide Joe, Jim Crow Genocide Joe, is going to go out and murder more people in retaliation for these soldiers, it looks like it was just like throughout the so-called war on terror, where a large percentage, if I could probably argue the majority of deaths, and some of the most prominent deaths, like Pat Tillman, that they told us people were over there fighting for democracy and they got killed by their own side. Because as you were alluding to, the incompetence. It's not just they don't understand the geopolitics. They don't, they're not fully or properly equipped or trained on how to use these magnificent instruments of mass murder. So I think that's noble. I'm just hearing that from you, that someone will come out and say, not in our name. And I know this is pretty much a burgeoning movement where people are saying they don't want the state to carry out atrocities in their name, whether it's the death penalty or U.S. aggression, going back to the so-called war on terror at the earliest, the World Trade Center, where many of those families said there was a whole not in our name movement. So I think that military, that's one of the best things that a military family or survivors' families can do, is a not in our name stance. Mm-hmm. And I respect that, but these people are fodder. I think of KRS-One when he said you want a salary and you want kids, you want a life, so you put on a badge and kill people for it. That's not noble, that's not respectable, and that's not a stance I can be sympathetic to.
Yeah, no, and so one of the things that the parents were saying, how this is somebody who was just living their life, enjoying life at a young age, working towards career. And I would say, okay, those people over there were just living their life and want to be self-determined and living their life. And again, it's not something that I could honor. It's something that I could, again, weep for. Like you literally feel you have to do this in order to have some type of career, some type of.
But see, it's not a feeling, and that's why that's why I struggle with Diallo's approach. It's not a feeling. It's an imposed conditioning. It's an imposed narrative. It's not. But when you say it's a feel, it's not self-generated.
No, I didn't say
a response.
Feeling. I'm not saying self-generated
but
feeling.
When I'm saying, when you say the word feeling, it suggests, I think it conveys something that is self-generated, and I don't think we're paying enough attention, Diallo included, to what people are not just choosing to wake up out of nothing, out of an array of beautiful choices, and saying, I want to put on a badge and oppress somebody else.
Enough. I can adjust to that. Conditioned enough to think, because you still have to make a choice to sign, but you're conditioned enough to think.
Again, choice. What choices? Again, I'm admitting I'm all in my own biased experience here. So I'm admitting that. I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, because
I submit to that. When I was 17 and somebody's telling me you go to prison or you sign here.
Yeah.
This is not a choice. This is not a 17-year-old saying, I am happily willing to put on a badge and oppress somebody else so I could. And this is not somebody, this is somebody who immediately recognized, even in that situation, as I already said, that were I to be killed by someone over there, they would have every right to do it because I have no business being there. I even understood that. But my point was, they don't. No, my point is that makes it even more, it makes it my point, because I had a particular nuanced worldview developed in my experience, but I'm saying, if you take that same person without the politics I was raised with, it's even more a clear decision. I'm not going to prison if all I got to do is sign up for this. And there's no conscious discussion or turning over in the mind of I'm going to oppress someone else. It is, the conscious thought I had was, ain't been no real wars in a minute. I'm probably going to get in and out, and I'm going to sneak through the raindrops and get away with it. 2 wars later, I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Now, had I signed up, had the brother in my building next door not told me to sign with the Navy and when I was meeting with Army recruiters, shit, I would have been in Fallujah. I would have been in now I can't even remember all this. I'd have been right out there with no clarity other than if I get got, I have to understand that. It's not that I on broad strokes don't agree with what Diallo or you or anyone else is saying. Is that I just think we have to be more clear about why people are making the quote unquote choices they're making. And again, at 17, 18, none of them understand what's going on.
This is why I would use the words survive, just like people enter survival economies, right? So if you feel like because of the way situations are, you would have to sell drugs to your community, you would have to do just because people enter a survival economy or survival practice, I'm more arguing that as a society, we still should struggle around making that not a thing or not being consistently celebrated. Because again, when you keep talking about the career of this person and they're young, they're living their life and just totally forget about those people over there. Like in particular, one of the sisters, their mother was in the military. She started talking about how black women, we can fight too. And you're kind of like, and there's people in her age bracket and before her who was already on the line of like why we shouldn't be used as cannon fodder. So I can understand why a young person would do that, right? JROTC warps the mind of people just as well as the movies and all these other things. I can understand that. Even I think when I was coming out, I went to college for 1 year and then I left. I was in the delayed entry program, kind of dealing with the same thing in terms of, if I can get this type of job, blah, blah, blah. And I think one of the first jobs they offered me was like cleaning some damn missile room I'm like, I'm not about to do that shit, right? So I can understand the wrestling with I need to survive, but also I'm just saying like, okay, well,
I think we have to understand what the U.S. military, because I just had to double check myself from the people I know that enlisted when I was coming out of high school, as I was recruited and encouraged by some of my family members to enlist in the military. They're not taking these wayward youth who don't have choices. They're not enlisting gangbangers with criminal records and high school dropouts.
Wait,
if you
what?
look at the military enlistment, if you look at the military enlistment requirements, if you look at and just look from your own experience, everybody that's listening to me, look at your own experience, the young people in your family that went and enlisted. And the people that I know that enlisted were not my friends that were in the street. The people that enlisted that I know personally were the people who had high school diplomas, that were college bound, like people say college bound.
College bound, Diallo, you're way off, bro.
Wait.
Way off.
Well,
way
military.
off.
No.
What
are you going off?
In this
what
military, all I'm saying is everyone I've ever known, and I lost a very lucrative grant in this city because I was teaching, had a green teens program that basically turned into a counter recruitment program. Because I was working with 17 and 18-year-olds from Chicago public schools. And Chicago public schools is a very heavy recruitment ground for U.S. military, where a lot of recruiters come here to meet or surpass their quota. And every time I'd be working with these students and they'd be talking about they got to go meet with this recruiter and the recruiter want to take them out for lunch and stuff. And what I observed, I had young people who were in the streets and I had young people who had options and working towards something, and they heavily focused on those young people who were college bound, who were on track to graduate, who didn't have pending cases, open cases, or juvenile records. And if I'm wrong, I'm not saying, I'm just speaking literally as someone who would never enlist and encourage others not to enlist. I just think these young people have no choice from narrative just is not reflective of what I've observed or what I've engaged with.
That's all wrong. The recruiters, they target the most depressed, down-pressed communities. They target the lower income Black and brown schools for recruitment. They target, the only thing you can't do is have a pending case, particularly a federal case, because my case which was actually federal, just required a judge to rule unsupervised probation so I could leave the state to go to boot camp. That was it. So there was they don't, almost none. They told me, I remember they told me, I forgot the numbers. I want to say the average ASVAB score, which was the military SAT at the time, was in the low 30s. And I remember, given our community here, it's going to sound crazy, but in the 4 years I experienced, a constant refrain, I was literally even brought into the division officer's office to discuss this at one point, was your ASVAB score is too high for you to be here. I was already like almost like being targeted as quote unquote too smart to be in my duty station. They were like, this is inappropriate. We don't want you. We don't want this level of thought in here. We want you to follow. So there was no, in fact, the first recruiter I ran into was at the homeless shelter around the corner. They literally were targeting people who were houseless. He was recruiting me, saying, you don't even have a home to go to. Might as well go to boot camp. So I think, yeah, I'll just stop there.
Okay, again, keep going. So the stated basic requirements for enlistment are not adhered to by the military.
Correct.
People without high school.
In fact, Diallo, I tell you a further bit of a story. The recruiter that I ended up signing with got himself in trouble because he lied to me and almost got me to fraudulently enlist by having me hide my charge. And so they absolutely will play with the paperwork and the numbers because recruiters get points, they get promotion, they get money.
I agree.
Bodies.
But
so they're not.
I think it's clear. I didn't say they didn't target poor people, but amongst the poor people, being poor does not mean you are not academically inclined. Being poor does not mean you're not informed. Being poor does not mean you don't have any options. When they target people who otherwise, because I do, well, as you said, a lot of people enlist so that they can pay for college. And all I'm saying is, my ultimate saying is that when I was working with young people to discourage them, and eventually having my relationship with CPS and their After School Matters program severed for this, for taking a stand and encouraging the young people not to recruit, some of the young people who were poor, minority, and had a lot of high risk conditions in their lives, or at risk youth, as they were defined by the city, by the public school system, at risk youth. They were targeting those who had the best of the best of the worst, if you might say. That's who they were targeting. And like you said, when they do bring in someone who isn't on track to graduate, who has cases and stuff, like you said, they get in trouble for that because that's not what I saw. But
so
they don't target. There's no. They don't target. I just don't agree. They do not target people with options unless you're being targeted at maybe at a college level for a particular OS or a particular line of work, or if you want a particular job. But by and large, to create the cannon fodder that we were talking about, to create the average enlisted rank and file across the military, they just want bodies, and they don't want thinking bodies. They overtly tell you, do not think, follow orders, stop thinking, turn your brain off. That's why boot camp in the Navy in particular is all about the corners of your bed, the flatness of your rack, the alignment of your shoes, because all they want is you pay attention to detail. So when you're on the flight deck, loading the bombs, helping the jets take off, fueling all of that, you're not messing anything up. You're not throwing your body into a jet engine. You're not messing up the mission, but you're not thinking. They do not want. So that's why they're in the houseless shelters. That's why they're in the quote unquote low income schools. That's why they're targeting the people who are least likely to have options, most likely to be desperate.
Well,
it's not a question of what you see, Diallo. It's data. It's experience. It's reality.
I think about the data.
So just raise your eyebrow above your glasses and look.
So I think there should be
or
some
listen.
kind of conversation about what.
I'm listening, and I'm sorry.
Hold on, Diallo. I think it should be a conversation about what data are we going by. Because I'm pretty sure there's research out there if we don't do any surveying ourselves. But I know the one sister from Savannah literally said she wanted to go see the world, right? Now, just so happens she wanted to go to see the world over there where they're having a conflict. But she wanted to go see the world, and I'm pretty sure that's also the reason why she joined, because I've heard people say they get to travel, right? And this is what a recruiter is selling. And if the recruiter is selling traveling and college and all this other stuff, I could argue, yes, these people have limited options. Maybe they could have even gone to college, but that don't mean they can afford college. And so do you want to go
That's the selling point. You're selling people an option that they can't get. You're selling people a world and a life that they have no other pathway to get. That's the whole point. That was when recruiters, when they would tell you. In one instance, I remember the dude was like, I just flew in. I'm from warm Hawaii where I'm stationed, and you're in cold DC, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but again, he doesn't tell you about anyway, they just leave out all the nightmare and all of that, and then promise you they go to a bunch of poor kids who have never thought of being in Hawaii, or maybe never thought they could get to Hawaii. And then they say, oh, maybe I could get to Hawaii if I joined the Navy, or if I joined the Army, if I joined the Air Force. That's the whole point. It's to play on the fact that they don't have options. Because rich kids, remember there was that case, what was it, in New England a couple years ago, where one white boy joined the military in the local high school, and they had a whole town collapsed because they were like, we're too rich and white for this. We don't send our kids to war. I only met one kid who was identifiably and claimed coming from some degree of upper middle class when I was in the military. Only one. And so they're not there. They're not, or they're there as officers maybe. They're flying the jets or running the ship maybe. But that's still even just, but that's not who gets targeted by recruiters.
Well, who gets targeted by pastors who have get rich quick schemes? So,
yo, this dude was funny.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Diallo. You're on mute, Diallo. You're talking, but you're on mute. And I'm trying to interrupt you to tell you on mute, and you still, I think you got a sound Geechee out bug in your ear. Like you just don't hear Geechee, so you just keep talking. But go ahead.
I'm looking up military recruitment demographics. And the vast majority, overwhelming majority of people recruited into the military can be defined as coming from middle-class backgrounds.
My
only argument is
send me that data.
I
do not believe that, but send
the
me
link.
I don't think, my only argument, I know about the insidious recruitment tactics. I've seen people being told these lies by recruiters. My only position is, as if you look at the average U.S. enlistee, is not an individual who had no other options. Being able to see the world, or desiring to see the world, or desiring to avoid college debt is not indicative of not having any other
Diallo,
options.
could you tell us what you mean by not having options? What does that mean?
Of course it is. Wait a minute, if you're joining the military to avoid debt and to see the world, of course that suggests you don't have options to see the world and avoid debt.
That's why I'm asking him to define what he mean by not having options. What does that look like?
Not having options, because what I mean by not having
options, just send me the link.
You will not be able to send the link. It's enlist, or you won't have any sort of life that is livable or worth living.
You're adding stuff to what I didn't say, but send me the link.
Now, I don't have the option of seeing the world. Right now, I don't have the option.
Oh man, now you're doing too much. Okay, here we go. Go ahead. Just send me the link.
Listen, I also would ask Diallo.
Send me the link.
Yeah, he's gonna send a link.
The link.
I also will ask about how do you get to middle class in that report? Is it what methods you using? Are you using income? These are middle class.
I do have PTSD. Everybody who serves has PTSD. I absolutely have PTSD.
Okay, so based on family income, that's not gonna work.
I think it is the thing. Whether it's people do these things because they have no other options. People join the military for a myriad of reasons. Some of them are patriotic. Some of them want to take the easy way out.
So the sources Council on Foreign Relations.
Avoiding debt is now you can say if you want to whittle it down. Well, I don't have any option to see the world, or I don't have any option to avoid student loan debt, or I don't have any option to get out of my parents' house and be on my own at this age. So I'm going to choose this. That's extremely like fucking first world position. When
that's limited options.
Someone has no options but to go overseas and murder people, I'm thinking to put your life on the line. It's like, well, I'm either going to lose my life or do this thing. So when you say no options, I would appreciate if we could be specific. What options are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't argue no options.
Because you could just not go to school. And if my college education rested on getting debt or killing other people, I would say the debt. If my education rested on joining the military or not going to school, I would just formally educate myself. I just get a library card.
Diallo,
to exercise.
Diallo, I think I've already
that this no option for Americans but the military thing is really consistent. But
look, I'm doing this quickly and I'm doing this live, but I think I've already seen this before, and I think you've fallen into a methodological trap here. Yep. So I just want to be clear. Most of them, you're reading from, first of all, this Council for Foreign Relations. So it says most members of the military come from middle class backgrounds, neighborhoods. That's the headline. But what it says here is middle class overrepresented among recruits, meaning that by percentage of people who are middle class, they're saying more by percentage per capita are represented in recruits. That does not mean overall numerically, because of course there's going to be more poor people than middle class people. So there's going to be an easier overrepresentation of middle class people, given that there are more poor people overall. So I'm doing this quickly. I'm not digging into the methods or the details, but I think that is a methodological trap you've fallen in to make the claim that the middle class is the abundance of the recruits. That's not what this is showing here. It's just saying that they're overrepresented by their per capita presence in the population. That's not the same thing.
There are more people in the United States who identify as poverty than middle class?
I don't know about identify. I'm saying numerically there are more poor people than middle class people. Yes.
Especially
are you saying that that's wrong?
Especially
I agree by my definition of poverty, but
I'm even using what's here. If we're talking about up to 41,000 as a neighborhood income level,
what percentage of Americans live in poverty?
Income is being measured here.
Again, what they're not using poverty numbers. They're using income to measure class, and they're saying. I feel like I just explained. I'm just repeating myself.
I accept your explanation.
Okay, so we would have to get data to support your claim. We would have to dig into that and find more, because that doesn't support your argument.
That's something we should get into. But and I'd love to have it, but I just disagree that in order to excuse or justify so many people being fodder, volunteering to be fodder for the empire.
I didn't excuse and I didn't justify.
It just doesn't hold water.
It's understanding.
This happens a lot. Wait, but this happens a lot. An analysis is not an excuse or a justification.
Not at all.
I'm trying to help us understand why people are really making the decisions they're making. It's not to justify them, but if we want to understand what's going on, we have to be honest about what's going on. And people are not joining the military in the United States to happily go off and kill some other person consciously for their own benefit.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. And I'm very, very much aware, having, in the year before last, having worked with a lot of people who were being recruited into the military. And the military is a fucking lie. the military recruitment, the military promotion, the military advertisement, the military's close relationship with Hollywood, and having script oversight and script approval positions for many Hollywood movies, and how a lot of stars from Will Smith to Common star in pro-U.S. military propaganda and saying that it's an adventure, see the world, get paid, and get and join and interact with people who will be your brothers and sisters for life. I agree they lie. I agree that they lie. But for the people overseas, because I try to look at this from the victims of U.S. imperialism, whose countries are invaded, who are under occupation, where we can just dismissively say, oh, well, you know, these people, they don't understand what they're doing. And I don't want somebody who don't understand what they're doing driving a fucking machine of death, an apparatus of death down the middle of my street. But the military does. In the United States, I agree. We in the United States, within our lifetime, haven't experienced foreign occupation. Regardless of what the right wing say, we're foreign occupied government, Zionist occupied government.
This is the U.S. is a foreign occupying government.
I don't think it's fair to the world. I don't think it's fair to the world to say, well, those Americans are over there because they had no other options.
Well, again, that I wasn't dismissing that. I wasn't dismissing that. I was intentionally saying that's why I would weep for them. And maybe Jared argues with the idea of choice, but these people were coerced into accepting or signing something, right? And you could call it force or whatever. And I wouldn't be celebratory of that. I would be weeping for that. I would say this is fucked up that our kids believe this is what it takes to get the bag, or this is what it takes to get to college, or this is what it takes to visit the world.
And there's an element of patriotism and pride, because people love to post those pictures of their children in uniform.
Yeah,
and
I mean, yes, and I think the patriotism and pride is also propagandized too. And that's why support your vets and celebrate the vets
with violence and weapons and guns. That's all. It's not just of the military. I just would not look at the U.S. military as it stands now as a bunch of people who were coerced without options to join this genocidal.
I ain't say the whole military. So we in particular talk about African people.
Oh,
Well, we
I would like to have some black veterans on here and discuss with some others, because
I mean, we could talk about it, and I think that's why I pull up the post. That's why I was pulling up the post, right?
No, I agree that there is plenty. There is plenty of what Diallo was talking about. But again, how
hella patriotic.
I mean, I got the cliched plantation speech from a brother from Alabama when I told him I was getting out as early as possible. I'll never forget it. I probably shared this story before. Bro, what you trying to leave for? We get to travel, fuck white girls. I got an Alpine stereo in my car. What is the problem? And I was like, I don't want that life. I said, and I told him, I literally told him I would rather be, at the time I said, I'd rather be homeless again on the street with no food than stay another day in this Navy. And he just couldn't understand it. He was like, I don't understand it. So I understand, I get what you're talking about, but he is himself the product by design. So I fully get it. Again, that's why I was saying, even at that time, if an Iraqi kills me, it would suck. But I don't expect them to take the time to understand how I ended up in their country threatening their life. So the duty of the person defending their homeland is do what you got to do. We have the ability with privilege to step back and perform an analysis. And that's all I'm encouraging here. And as we try to understand why people end up where they end up. Oh yeah, Hiram, I'm trying to tell you. And when we were rumored to be going to Australia, every black man that had already been was hitting the gym and getting their incenses and oils ready, get their soaps ready, get that good white girl treatment. It was legend.
About to get blown up.
I'm just telling you what it is.
Might as well go to Kentucky. You might as well go to Kentucky, and go to the mountains in Maine and all those other places, and you can
There are
get shot.
documentary films that talk about these populations in places that the U.S. has occupied, invaded, or has military bases, where these orphan they're not really orphans, they have a mother, but they're abandoned children with American fathers, black, white, and otherwise, where they are form an ethnic group, where they are an identified and recognized ethnic group as the bastard offspring of American GIs, that there's such a large population of them, and they go on to form communities of their own throughout.
That's
like
real
I said,
talk.
Vietnam, South Korea, Germany, even.
Germany. I was in the AAPRP study group with descendants of that community. As a matter of
and a lot of them come back here.
Enough time on this negative shit right
wait,
one of the cats I grew up with had a GI bastard, for lack of a better term, in Germany.
Oh, damn.
Ouch. Wait, GI bastard?
What do you want me to say?
I mean, damn.
A human child that was born without the loving care of their father.
I mean, damn.
Raised without the loving care of their father. How about that?
Potential revolutionary for those people.
I had a friend we grew up with, and he was a junior and a student athlete on to go off with his scholarship, and his dad called him and was like, listen, it's this cat in Germany. If somebody call you from Germany, don't pick up the phone.
Oh, damn.
And it was when his father was in Germany, stationed in Germany, he impregnated a white woman and came back here, met my dude, and was dating before they left, and their parents weren't together at that time, but he went on and had a whole another family in life and had no contact with that child, and he had a German sibling. So born and raised
I just want to
in Germany,
respond.
didn't even speak English.
I just want to respond quickly to Seahorn's trick question. Dr. Ball, what about when you were stationed in white cities in America? Huh? That is a trick question. There are no military bases in white cities or white communities in the United States. Nice try. Good try. They don't put military bases are notoriously in the poorest, most oppressed, exploited communities for the cheapest land.
And the armories too.
I wouldn't know. And all of that. So I was
every neighborhood, went from
don't
Brooklyn
act like y'all ain't had parties at the armory.
From Brooklyn to Kansas City. Every poor black neighborhood I have ever lived in, I've lived in within walking distance to the goddamn armory.
We had parties.
Nice try, Seahorn. I see you out there trying to get me. No, that's why I was in Norfolk.
They let us rent out the armory every time.
But listen, Kansas City Armory, the Brooklyn Armory, over there.
Fort Meade. Nice try, Jamila. Fort Meade don't count because, first of all, it's still a very poor surrounding community relative to Maryland. But that's a special corridor of the NSA. They got all that tricky shit up in there. So that's not even a real base.
Get out the chat. Let's move on. Get out the chat. Get out the chat.
No, you're right.
Y'all get y'all some money. It's time to get some money.
Yeah, maybe good point.
Nice
good
things.
Point.
You don't have to join the military. You could just get some crypto. Pull up the next joint.
Oh man,
we don't need no military. Let's just get
is this the YouTube? Which one am I? Is this the YouTube clip? Okay, yeah. Okay,
get you some money, man. All this talk.
But did you see? Spencer Cornelia did a good piece on this too. But I'll
pull that up when you got it too.
But we can start here. This is the Lord said get Bitcoin.
I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I've got a very unique testimony in the sense that I didn't go a traditional finance, traditional college education route. I actually got out of high school, started stealing high-end sports cars, got caught,
got locked up,
ended up going to prison for 8 years. And twice. So I went to prison once, got out on a reconsideration, reoffended, got in a fight, went back in. And
gotta let you know he's a tough guy.
Literally thinking I was going to spend the next 8 years of my life in prison. And then I was reading my Bible one day, like a lot of prisoners do. And I the first time I ever had a rhema word, and it was Hosea 2 verse 15. It says, "Your gates will be open," or it says, "I will allure her to the wilderness." Excuse me. "Speak kindly to her there, and from there restore her vineyards in the valley of Acre as a door of hope." And the Lord spoke to me and said, "When you go back in front of that courtroom, I'm giving you probation." which was completely impossible. And so I told my lawyer about it. She thought I was
Shout
completely
out,
crazy. My whole family thought I was completely crazy. The only one that believed me was my mom. And I'm just like, Lord, like, why is no one else getting this? Like, why am I the only person that's
I'm sorry to cut it off, but just real quick, the only reason that story is believable is because of what Daruba's story was when he got out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
getting this, right? And a lot of times, you know, when you start walking with the Lord, he's going to tell you things that only you know. And you got to sometimes carry those things for a while. You got to carry those words. And so I went to the courtroom. Judge basically said, you know, I told you what would happen if you came back here. I'm sending you to prison for 8 years. And I didn't say anything. I just hung my head, walked out. And so I spent the next almost a year locked up. And the Lord was telling me, he's like, you're getting out of here. And so finally I just started confessing it. And I said, okay, Lord, I believe you. I'm just only going to speak what you're telling me. I'm not going to look at the impossibility of
That's
my
all
situation.
Mumia got to do.
And that's what I started doing. I started laying that runway of faith by what I was speaking. It says in the Bible,
somebody please. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
So as you're speaking what God is telling you to speak, what happens is your own faith ignites. God uses your own words.
Yeah, I think that's the point. We need to get word to Mumia, to Leonard, to Kamal, to Siddiqui, to you know, maybe even Asada could use this in down there in that heathenistic Cuba. Just read a few more passages of the Bible. What was that? Hosea 2:13? What was that? And you know, confess to God and let's get some PPs out. It only took 50 years for the solution to be revealed. So
mocking God.
We now know it. And H-Rap Brown, thank you, GM.
Mocking people's faith.
So slow down. I know you two are atheists, and I know you guys, you know, feeling some type of way about your money situation. But God,
what you know about you've been calling my wife, man.
I'm just saying,
what you talking about? What you know
she
about
told me not to tell you. My bad, Dr. Mango.
Be careful. Remember what Cam and Mace teach us.
What's that?
Ear hustling leads to pocket watching, which leads to pillow talk, which leads to backstabbing. Woo. So stop pocket watching.
Well, anyway, so
pause.
God told this man and his pregnant wife, because before they got into, so he told you he started out scamming and stealing shit, stealing high-end cars. And then they went to a marketing scheme where they made almost $3 million. And God told him and his pregnant wife to step away from your marketing. While they was marketing for Uber and some, you know, big corporations. But in 2021, the Lord told him and his wife, step away from marketing and do a new thing. And that new thing was the index coin. And the couple raised $3 million. They pocketed 1.4 million.
Sorry, I got to cut you off real quick because they didn't just create that coin that they were hyping in that video there. They created an exchange. Mm-hmm. The what was it? The Kingdom's Gate or Kingdom's Throne exchange. So they were
it's a whole team of them too. It's
to trade and sell their coin. They were like double and triple dipping or whatever.
Yeah. And there's some black. It's a whole team of them. So there's I think a black woman and a black man that's in there too. It's a whole team of pastors who've been doing it. It didn't seem like they got caught yet, but they did pay taxes. So they paid $500,000 worth of their taxes. And so God is doing a miracle in the financial sector for people who are obedient to Him. And so what you two atheists have to say about that? Because y'all ain't getting nobody no damn money. Y'all just sitting here talking shit.
Look, I say it all the time. Even as an atheist, I find it. I do find it particularly disgusting when people abuse other people's faith, and so I find that to be for some reason an additional level of abuse when you're messing with people's faith, even if I don't share it. So, but it makes perfect sense. I think all of it. A hustle finds a hustle. A hustler finds a hustle. So I mean it. He's like, and all of these dudes, they keep saying, and what also bothers me, honestly, is that, and shout out to Ear Doctor's homeboy or uncle, I can't remember, who just got released. But like, there are people who come out of prison and try to not return to ripping off their community. There are people who do come out of prison who try to actually be helpful. And yet we got this dude, we got, what's his name, that was right here. Like these dudes come out of these prison situations and then they just update the hustle, but it sounds, and so like I don't know, it messes up. I know I'm not being appropriate, but it messes it up when you're like somebody comes to you is like, I did 8 years. I was supposed to do 8 years for theft. I'm a preacher, and I now run a crypto exchange with my own coin. I'm like, that's like the trifecta or the quad, the 4-layer, the 4-pronged hustle. It's like, my goodness. I don't know.
So that video, pause at 16 and you'll see the picture of the rest of them on there. So even though white man, yeah, pause at.
You want me to play it till then, or just move it?
Pause at 16 seconds so you can see the still shot of the picture. But these are more of the people. You can pause it there. So that's all of the pastors that's kind of like in. Oh, actually, it's 3 black people, but he's the only one that got caught yet or got up. So he's locked down, but I know Diallo is happy about that. But he is saying that either he misheard God.
Anybody get locked up? I'm an abolitionist.
Oh, okay. He said he either misheard God, and every one of you, right, the people who work with him, every one of them prayed and came in. We either misheard God or God is still not done with the project. He's going to do a new thing. So
divine wealth creation.
Hold out, keep the faith. What you got to say about just crypto Christ?
I thought y'all told me it's not appropriate to question, mock other people's faith.
We're not. That's not.
I thought I couldn't talk about these male chauvinist murder cults and mass delusions. Y'all just admonished me.
Wait, I mean, we didn't say.
But can I say something? Religion and wealth accumulation have always gone hand in hand, from the mega church pastors to the Arab oligarchs or the Islamic oligarchs. Religion and wealth. So anything that comes up that's money. Religion has always, some of the richest institutions in the world are religious. You know, the biggest real estate landholder in this country, if you look at the conglomerates or organizations that own the most land, the religions and religious institutions control some of the biggest, most wealthy real estate. And I'm not even just talking about Christians and as you would think, but Jehovah's Witness, the whole Dumbo area, billions of dollars worth of real estate was owned by the Jehovah's Witness cult. So, I mean, it's par for the course. Anybody that could be shocked that Christianity would sooner than later merge with crypto or embrace crypto for as long as it's on the upswing, and whether it is digital currency or gold, the lust for the gold rush and the gold drive, or the stealing of natural resources, or the land grabs. They all had all of the imperialist armies from the past to today, all of the barons, all of the moguls. They all have their spiritual advisors or holy men that they kept in tow. So religion, formal religions, spiritual systems, cults, and even, get your toes out so I can step on them, a lot of these African spiritual, Eastern spiritual, these yoga folks on their 3rd, 4th, 5th life, driving around BMWs and shit. So religion, this delusion of religion, has always been a complement and a lust for mammon. It's always. And if you name a cult or a religion or quote unquote spiritual system, they've always been extremely attracted to wealth accumulation, and trying to recruit wealthy people into their ranks so that they could be associated and amass wealth. So crypto, I am not at all surprised. My only question about this whole Christ and crypto is what took y'all so long to finally make this marriage, because it's a match made in heaven.
I mean, I'm not sure that other people haven't dabbled in crypto and all this other stuff, but I don't know that they got caught like this in this manner. But again, you see
they have. I mean, again, Sam Bankman-Fried is just a bigger version of what this dude was doing.
Right.
No, I'm talking about like pastors or
Oh,
I mean, it's all, no matter, remember most of those pyramid Ponzi schemes, multi-level marketing, they're coming out of the Mormon church, and they have a large faith. They go after women in the church because that's where you can't really find a money scam or money hustle that doesn't have either direct or adjacent connection to some type of church or spiritual group or community. It's all a scam. It's kind of like when Jared was talking about how people are primed for the military from early in life, to primed to go. People are primed to fall for this shit in the church from day one. God is opulence. God is, they represent God in abundance and all this shit as they warp their religion in order to be a conduit for wealth. God is using them to show out.
I still think I with all that I agree with in what you're saying, Diallo, I still feel like it's just extra abusive to add people's faith as your marketing or your hustle. I don't even know if I'm logical in feeling that way. Because as much as I am not a believer, I see how many people deeply hold these beliefs, and to use that to manipulate a theft is just, I don't know, somehow feels.
When did that not happen? Literally, propaganda.
I agree with you.
Was invented by the church.
Yeah,
propaganda was born out of religion. It wasn't the merchants,
but humanity having faith,
the monarchs, the church invented.
I agree. I know, but my point is, and part of what they were able to do is manipulate people's pre-existing faith systems and appropriate. So that's what I'm saying. The imposition of these religions is part of what I'm saying is part of the abuse of people's faith. I'm with you on that. I'm just admitting, for some reason, it's just feels slightly worse than when you just rip people off the normal way.
I promise you, if all three of us, if I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and you did a Hajj, and the prophet touched your heart, and you became some Geechee, some New Age guru, our numbers would quadruple in viewership, following, and contributions. It is the easiest path. It is the easiest, quickest. Dude, I know so many cats who was on the bus and Jesus Christ touched their heart, and within a year they in a Cadillac.
Do you know why I know you're right? I know the reason Diallo can be proven correct is through an episode of South Park. There's an episode where Cartman literally bets his friends who will have the quickest path to pop music success.
Right.
And he says, I'm gonna beat all of you because I'm just gonna change love for Jesus, and he went immediately to the top. And it was hilarious. He just took all the words, scratched out love, put Jesus in there, scratched out friend, put Jesus in there, scratched out, parent or whatever, Jesus, and redid all the music and was like, and everybody else was broke.
If you hate exploiting people's faith, Jared, I mean, you gotta hate everybody. Who's not left to hate? I mean, this is something we forget. Remember Tyler Perry?
Oh no.
His earliest iterations, if you look at them old VHS tapes, his shit was all Christ themed.
Mm-hmm.
He was using theater and the performing arts to spread the love and the word of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten away from that now that he's secured the bag, but he still shows up at up at TD Jake's Potter's House Ministries to get swallowed up from time to time.
Wait. What? Slow down.
Huh?
What you just said?
Pause.
TD Jake said it.
No. We moving on after that. Like, wait. What you doing, man?
I ain't doing nothing but
you just said the dude go to Potter's house to get swallowed. What the fuck is you talking about?
I didn't say it. I've never been to the Potter's house. for what TD. All I'm saying is
no, man. No.
The religious grift is the oldest. They talk about religion. I mean, a prostitution is the oldest profession. No, grifting people's faith is the oldest, wealthiest, and legal tax-free hustle.
Pause.
Man, I'm just saying we
hey, you can't write pause across
that
screen.
A lot of these moguls, Jesus walks, a lot of these moguls, they've all had their awakening. And if it's not formal religion, it's new age spirituality. It's all a money hustle. And like I said, Jared, you're gonna explode with hatred if you don't like people's faith being exploited.
In the Bible,
what else can you do with faith besides take advantage of it? How can you deal with faith in a positive or healthy way?
Listen, in the Bible, they said, do not make statues after likeness of God. And we made a statue in the likeness of a sports god. And
white folks.
That's a
white folks
introduction ever.
White folks.
And they left their shoes. What if they would have took those shoes and tied them together and throw them on the light pole or something?
But does this one have the footage? Because there's footage of it.
Yeah, but you can't see the people in the video though. You can't.
But you can see them driving up in their pickup truck to steal it.
Yeah, you can. And
this
they
is
made it
from my
seem like
part
they
of
just pushed
town.
the
Shout out
down.
to Kansas. Shout out to Missouri. Shout out to the state line, Wichita County.
But listen, I went on a rabbit hole chase, and I got some questions. So I went down this rabbit hole. I saw who made the statue, right? And they paid him around $75,000. He actually is no longer with us. He's dead, but he was a part of NRA. And he was also a part of
that's the contradiction.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of stuff he's a part of. He's a part of the international hunters who I'm sorry, what is the name of it? The Safari Club International. He's a part of them too, and they're under some scrutiny for the type of shit they're doing in Africa.
He's a dead man.
He is now. But I wonder if
y'all breaking all the rules y'all tell me to follow.
I'm just saying, his friend, the guy who's commissioned to do this, his name is Lutz. His friend is the one who made the statue for $75,000. Already, I think they had almost $200,000 they raised on GoFundMe. So initially, I was like, damn, that's his friend. He just made the statue in 2021, and now he's about to make it again for another $75,000. But again, now he's not here. I don't know if it has something to do with the family. But once this happened, he started talking about, yeah, we're more than just baseball, because supposedly a bunch of kids come there and play baseball. We're more than about baseball. We have programs or whatever. So he's pretty much using this opportunity as a marketing to funnel in a whole lot more money for this situation over a statue. Now, Teslin and a lot of black pundits are trying to say, oh, they're trying to get us back because we took down statues. And it will be interesting if they make this about a black thing and black people all up in it and they're funding it, they're donating to it, all the while these white people are pocketing the money. Because again, the mold is already there and they don't have to totally remake.
So just so I'm following you, it's a white company or a white
I think
sculptor.
you got to give more grounding, because you kind of talk about stuff as if they start with your base of understanding. And then you start explaining based on your level of understanding instead of kind of giving people a grounding of this story, because this isn't really a national story. This is kind of something local that came up because it's in kind of like in my backyard. But I think you maybe should back up a little bit, because they can hear your analysis, but they don't really know what you're analyzing.
Right. So at this field, this is baseball field, where
in Kansas,
right, in Wichita, Kansas, and they have a statue of Jackie Robinson up, and there's a program where a bunch of kids come in. It's actually in a relatively low-income neighborhood that's majority black. There's a wealth gap, obviously, and the guy who Lutz, who is the director, and he commissioned the people to build the mold. The guy name was John Parsons, who he paid in 2021 to build this statue. And during this recent vandalization, They shows a video of people pushing the statue down, but it looked like they saw the legs off and then push it down, pull up their pickup truck, took it away, and then burn it at another site or
in a garbage can. No, they put it in a dumpster and burned it in the dumpster, and then sent that images of it burning in a dumpster to.
Which I'm curious how they burn it. That fire has to be pretty hot.
They didn't burn the statue. They just, you put it in a dumpster, and then you put a bunch of flammable debris around it, and then you set that ablaze. It's kind of like the imagery. This was a message. Yeah. This was a symbol, and it was a message. But and something else you have to understand, which is weird as hell to me. Like, if you look at the Midwest from St. Louis, and you go up to Kansas City and into Kansas, and baseball in Middle America, we're talking about the Bible Belt. It's not even the Bible Belt. It's called the buckle of the Bible Belt. And baseball is weird, where like you find people who like listen to baseball on the radio. Like, I can't even watch baseball on TV. And like, even like, I have to say, I'm put my little brother out there, they listen to baseball it's a baseball town. And this is also the region where the Midwest, Kansas City, Missouri, is where they have the Negro Leagues Museum. And the Negro Leagues are very, very big there. There was a time, like, you go to Kansas City, you'll see people wearing Cuban X-Giants gear and wearing Kansas City Monarchs, wearing Negro Leagues gear, and there's a museum. Baseball and Negro Leagues is major there, not just as a business, but as in the people's psyche, in the culture, community, and people see baseball as something that brings us all together.
It's a baseball city.
I remember when y'all watch Park and Rec? Y'all familiar with Little Sebastian?
I saw Park and Rec, but no.
I am. I have to admit, I'm overly familiar.
Well, when my wife and I first went to
I could probably start singing a song if
I would have to prepare people, especially you city folk, you big city folk. Whenever I go to Kansas City with somebody from Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, big city black folks, I have to prepare them, orient them. And when we got there was this guy by the name of Buck O'Neill. He was one of the last living Negro League players. And they would parade this dude out like Little Sebastian. Shit that didn't even have nothing to do with baseball. And my wife was like, this Buck O'Neill guy, like every time there's anything happening in Kansas City. And it was weird because the Black United Front would bring him out, and the militant black organizations would bring him out, and the Republican Party and the right wing would bring him out. And it was like he was a fulcrum and a conduit for uniting all of racist ass Midwest. So taking down a Jackie Robinson statue is a major, major thing for the psyche of the people in that region, both black and white, both racist and anti-racist. It's a major thing. So if you know anything about Wichita and baseball and Kansas and Missouri, and the I-70 highway between St. Louis going all the way to Colorado, it's a lot more. It's a serious message for some people to take down that statue and burn it in a dumpster.
Well, one of the largest donations so far was like $10,000 pledge from an anonymous Major League Baseball player who won the World Series there. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the black pundits, the Breakfast Clubs type people, make this about race, which
it is about race.
What I mean is like about the war between statues. We took down that statue. Now
it is about that too. Just because there's some other shit going on, don't mean the other shit ain't going on.
It could be. What I'm saying is somebody can be playing off of this and getting bankrolled, right? So if Joe Parsons' family is in on it, which they can get a kickback or whatever, the money's still going to be going to them. So black people are going to be emotionally connected to it by donating, because they're trying to. We can put our money up and rebuild another one. Yeah. But the person who's going to refill the mold or make another one is going to be the same Parsons family. So
I agree, but how does that cancel the politics? What the motivations of those who took down?
I don't know how you just got canceled out of there. I don't know about canceling the politics, but there could be a use of having them distracted on this while also still funding the money. Because again, They don't raise $200,000 for a $75,000 job that really won't even cost $75,000 again because the mold is still there. So all they got to do is refill the mold. And so all of this money is going to go in the hands of those people.
Go pocket watching again.
I understand that.
You know the labor costs of refilling of
I
redoing
know it don't
something.
cost the same much as making the mold over, and then I know that much.
Yeah, but I mean, when we look as far as sports and ball chasing, aren't we coming up with the Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers?
Look at this ball chase.
$200,000 couldn't buy you a 1-minute commercial on the airtime. I mean, it's relatively, but I do think the ideology in terms of you have this Jackie Robinson, this docile ball chaser, and white people, the white people think that colonizers, mass enslavers, and treasonous genociders is equivalent to a docile ball chaser in their head. So the white mentality of the people we're against in terms of the statue wars, because there is this whole thing where they're saying, you know, you take down our statues, you take down our enslavers, we're going to take down your ball chasers because we don't have any monuments to black people who commit atrocities. Oh, I'm sorry, we got Colin Powell. There are monuments to Colin Powell. So we do have some villains but that he didn't fight for us. He didn't commit atrocities on our behalf. And if white folks took down the Colin Powell statue, I would actually support that. But I do think we do have to pay attention to the ideology and motivations behind that shit. And you know, as far as the money and the little $200,000, they're gonna make a lot of money off of this grift, but it's not going to even come close to the bigger grifts. But I do think that white people having a counteroffensive in their minds have a counteroffensive of us destroying their heritage, and now they're going to attack things that they mistakenly identify as black heritage. I do think that component of it is probably the most important component from my perspective.
Well, I messed around and started reading the counterinsurgency manual that Millennials Are Killing Capitalism was talking about the other day with Dylan Rodriguez for their forthcoming study group. And per their discussion and so far what I've read in the manual, all of this fits perfectly well with what they would have in mind for all of their efforts. As long if all of the uproariousness in this case related to race and class is left at the level of statue thefts, they're like this is perfect. We endorse this message. Yeah, just a quick thought there. And also I think I'm assuming this is why Ricky was saying boo Jackie Robinson. I was trying to think of a joke, like it would be kind of funny if people were like, well, you know, you stole the statue of somebody who talked shit about Paul Robeson, but I dare you to come get a statue of Robeson though. And then be like, where is the statue of Robeson?
So since Diallo is advocating you give to them because the money don't matter, that's how much money they raised so far.
I didn't say. Did I say the money don't matter?
That's how you be moving though. I'm just moving like you right now, just throwing shit and hoping it stick. Oh, they said this, but yeah, that's how much money they raised.
They're gonna raise a lot more than that behind this emotional outpouring. But I do think it's something that, like I said, people mad I called him a docile ball chaser because he did advocate for racial integration and for little black boys and little white boys to walk hand in hand. But yeah.
But now I want to know what they were drunk off of though, because were they drinking an Anheuser-Busch product after there was supposed to have been that white right backlash against Bud Light for their support of the trans community? And then people were not clear about how conglomerates work and seem to not understand that this bigger conglomerate owns all these motherfucking beers you drink. And you're out here talking about Bud Light and over here drinking another one of their products.
The official beer of the UFC now.
In the UFC now, exactly.
But I'm sympathetic to racist white folks.
Oh,
Can I play? Can I play
not to black people who join the military?
Right, that's some wild shit.
Absolutely,
that's some wild shit.
I have no sympathy.
Damn, we ain't
Go the
surprised.
other way. Go that way. Can I play the Caucasus Mountain cave dwelling devil's advocate for one moment?
If you want to, sure.
Because you got a bunch of good old boys who want to retaliate. And because we're taking down genociders, we're taking down people who conquered continents and exterminated races of people, whole cultures. And so white folks is like, they're taking down our Columbus statues, they're taking down our Confederate statues, and then all they got is ball chasers to take down. And it's like when people were so mad, like they burning our churches, and black folks went during the church, because these are the same ilk. Black people were so confused as Christian white people burning a black church. And I said, what else? Are they going to burn black factories? Are they going to burn black warehouse? Like, that's the most prominent black. That's all we got. So all we put up. So maybe we should give them better targets. Let's get some Khalid. Not to say that they're equivalent, but can we get some people? Fine, if you want villains, let's get a Mobutu Sese Seko statue.
No, I'm saying
let's get a Papa Doc Duvalier statue. Let's put up a statue of black villains.
I started pocket watching the whole city
to tear down, so they don't have to tear down integrationist ball chasers or Dr. King statues. Let's give them some villains to tear down, because they don't have targets. Like, we got a lot of good white villains. Remember when Trump said during his administration, said, if you're tearing down statues of people because they were racist, or they were rapists, and they were colonizers, we're going to have to tear down everything. That's the one honest thing he said in his whole. He's like, what will be left? He said, why not take down the Washington Monument? He said, literally, all we have are shrines to villains. That's all we got. So I'm sympathetic to the white devils, but not the black veterans.
Tell us more about your area of
That's going to be, that's the headline of the clip.
Run with it.
White devils over black vets.
Wow, shit. Diallo, tell us more about your Kansas people. So I was pocket watching the whole state, and I was seeing how specifically in Wichita, 64% of white households own home compared to 35% of black households. And you have the realtors there thinking that they are the ones who are responsible for closing the housing gap by joining organizations that focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The realtors will stop their implicit bias and give the black people houses. So what's going on with these different counties and areas or places where the black spots at, and give us your thoughts of your.
Well, I mean, it's funny because when I was growing up I grew up on the Missouri side, so.
So where that at?
I'm not Wyandotte County trash, by the way.
Point to it. Where is that on the map?
It's on the other side. It's clipped. Got to cross state. Wichita is like in the middle of the state. Wichita is way out of the way, but everybody goes there because they got K-State. I believe K-State, like a lot of black kids from the inner city go like to. There was this benevolent, trickle down, wealthy white man who went to the inner city schools, I think Westport High School, and said, he's going to donate money and put in a trust where any poor black kid who gets a diploma from these selected inner city schools will get a full ride to college. He'll pay their college tuition. And several people I grew up with from my neighborhood actually got that scholarship, and many of them went to Wichita State, Kansas State, Johnson County College, and so. But actually, that is kind of. I've been to Wichita, but I ain't never messed around in that in the West. So that's Kansas City. I'm from Kansas City. In those areas, it's really funny because the black people are really dispersed. You'll find like in Wichita, there's like a small inner city, but this is rural America, flat wheat. Like their state symbol on the license plate used to be wheatgrass. It's just flat farmland all the way across. Like the glaciers flat in that area. It's flat land. If you ever drive across Kansas and the black people in that area,
I know too many Kansas. I'm gonna have to say this shit. They still are in Jim Crow era America. I mean, some old Jim Crow deference to white folks status. It's really wild. And I would even say that, and I know y'all, hey, Kansas City, Missouri, even, which is considered the big city, big time, it's just unbelievable. Remember, that's the region of the country where they put up a Martin Luther King a Martin Luther King Boulevard, and the black community was circulating petitions to have it taken down, and they didn't want a King Boulevard in Kansas City. And so that's the kind of shit, the kind of ideology and mindset that's in that region. But Wichita, that's a little bit out of. I've been there. I know the folks, but it's most of those areas. Lawrence, Kansas, Wichita. Those are college towns, really, just rural college towns, party towns.
And that's where the University of Kansas at in Lawrence, right?
Yeah, I went there to see Common, like all the like indie and progressive rap groups back in the day. I had to go all the way to Lawrence to see them perform when they were doing their little college tours. So that's when I would mostly go to Wichita and Lawrence to see music, and for the music. Ironically enough, I had to go to like the heart of white America to see progressive black hip hop, because they didn't. It's weird.
Okay. So I'm curious.
See the Roots in Lawrence too. Shout out to the Roots. They tore it down.
Jared, I don't know if you
made me
have
ignore
anything
the
else to add about Kansas. You ever been to Kansas? I know you said Howard County looked like Kansas, don't it?
I said that?
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I've never been to the. I am a cliche of the bougie Northeast liberal. I don't stop and fly over states.
Yeah, flyover country. That's where the power is. You know, it's like California has 40 million people and only 2 senators. And
real quick, I'm sorry, my bad. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
I'm sorry. No, I just saw Obi comment in the chat, and I was just reminded, I need to shout out Obi and Bap and Ricky and everybody for not only the general great work, but helping me out my book distribution network at this point. On top of all the good work they do, Obi took time out of his schedule to stop by, pick up some books to take to an event I couldn't make the other day because I was sick. Shout out to all of them. Appreciate all of their work and the support and helping me, again, get some of these books out. By the way, I just heard from that symposium group, and they sent out a free copy of a book called something about the history of buying power by Glickman. I realize I'm going to have to do in some forthcoming work, I have to step my game up and actually address some of the arguments that I've been critical of and do it academically. I think I've actually now seen this, but this group of economists in thinking about my own work, I was brought up this book called Buying Power, History of Consumer Activism in America by Lawrence Glickman. And it's a book I've read a good portion of some time ago, but never really addressed because it really I didn't really want to take the time in my own work to deal with it, but it's just another recitation of the misunderstanding of what buying power is, and then in attempts to glorify and I think over-glorify the potential and history of boycotts. So it actually produces or reproduces the mythology. And so I've invited them to address that and to engage that, and I look forward to that as well. So, or to tell me where I'm wrong. I keep, again, inviting, if you think, so I said, read Glickman and read my book, and then because they are opposing arguments. So if you think he's right, then you have to, then I'm wrong, and I need to be course correcting. But so we'll see. But sorry, anyway, thanks to everybody. I appreciate all of that.
He's like the Eminem to your
Most Def.
Benzino. Oh, no, I thought you.
Oh, you said Benzino. No, I wouldn't do you like that.
Well, I mean, only because
got a daughter who's popping right now, right?
I fucked up.
Yo, Benzino, because Benzino and Eminem are beefing again. Drake versus
Most Def. That's what
Most Def.
Drake. I got that.
And I did you all. I didn't plan anything to talk about, but I hate to say this, but I'm disappointed in Yassine's Instagram. What I've seen some people call a hostage video, where he's more or less trying to clarify what he didn't mean about Drake or that. Oh. Listen, we're from the era. It was explicitly stated in verse. Rap is not pop. If you call it that, then stop. So to act like we can't have that distinguishing discussion anymore is really deeply disturbing. And for him to have to come back or feel compelled to come back as in response to the backlash of all these ignorant fools on Twitter, some of which I've seen, people daring to raise the question about who is most deaf.
He's not making a choice, Jared. He's being forced by the celebrity of Drake. He need that money.
I see what you're doing there, and I don't appreciate it. But the bottom line is that
I just was surprised he punked out.
I think I am. Maybe naively so, but I think I am. I think I am. Or just disappointed. Bless my heart.
I could say I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised where a lot of these old heads it just really
is Yassim still on the continent right now, or is he back in the U.S.?
Honestly, I don't know. I thought he said it, but what I thought he did in that video, I've even showed it to my class. I thought he did it perfectly. His one line about the Target shopping, that's just inadvertently bar after bar. Yeah, shopping with an edge, he said. Maybe it's shopping with an edge. That's what Drake's music is. And then I've gone back lately, the last couple of days, listening to Moses' catalog and all this, and reminding myself of his genius. Man, people need to stop, man.
Amazing.
People need to stop. And then what it also reminds me again, after this last year of the 50th anniversary, it's an L. Another L has been taken here, because to the idea that point, we can't distinguish that anymore. So it's just all Common, good now.
And then Common came out.
You're right. I forgot about that. About that.
Both Common and Kissing the Ring. Common came out. Hip hop for everybody. Hip hop for everybody. Yeah.
Well, this is the man himself. He is. Not that people can't make changes, but he is the walking. Because on the one hand, he did that song with Kanye back in the day, where he's talking about, I see a dread walking with a white girl on his arm, and I'm this, that, and the third. I'm all upset, or whatever he was saying. Then of course he ends up with a white woman, and now he writes a self-help book after previously being on board with political radicalism and organization. Now it's TD Jakes and self-help.
Remember,
and now your point is hip hop is for everybody, man. Stop it.
Remember that Reach a Hand Out? You gonna forget about that when they got the Grammy for that civil rights rap song, and he said we need to reach a hand out to racist. And he was embedded. Wow. He was embedded in the whole new black thing with Pharrell. The new blacks aren't angry anymore. The new blacks aren't caught up on skin color. You don't remember? They didn't know who look in the crochet pants, which is worse than, And if you look at his movie catalog, he's competing with
State
Will
Agent.
Smith with pro-U.S. imperialist propaganda movies.
Speaking of propaganda,
up front and center. So, like he said, I dropped the sense from my song, and about the same time he dropped sense from his name, he dropped it from his mentality as well.
Jay-Z
is Common. He's in Jay-Z's verse now. And I ain't like rhyme like common sense. You your own Jay-Z verse.
But still, I'm still in this debt with that diss track he had for Ice Cube and Dub C, and I love Dub C.
Oh no, look, Common.
I love Dub C and
Dub C.
Go listen to Ain't a Damn Thing Changed. Go get that album with Colonial and Dub C.
When people reminisce over Lauryn Hill's career, one of the tracks that is often left out is the one that she did with Common, which is one of the most powerful, beautiful, painful, soulful, tear-jerking tracks in hip-hop history, sampled over...
I know Obi better be playing. I'm sorry. I know he better be playing. I know that's a joke.
Please let me fit. You put a Tyler Perry... You pulled up a Tyler Perry comment in the middle of my recitation of this greatest hip-hop classic.
I just hope that's a joke.
You are violating today.
I hope that's a joke.
You don't have no respect for history or culture, man.
You are violating.
Young folks don't respect
hours right now.
Thank you, Diallo. These young folks. My point was that Common did a track on I think it's like Water for Chocolate, where Lauren sings the hook.
Yeah.
I never dreamed you'd leave in summer. No, I'm not talking about Asada. I'm talking about I'm talking about the one where they talk about the choice to abort a child and the struggle over that. I mean, it's the Stevie Wonder song. It's the Common when he's at the top of his game. It's Lauryn Hill singing. It's all of that power and emotion. Like again, one of the reasons why some of us are having the reaction to this Yasin Bey moment and to what you're bringing up about Common is because we remember how good they were. We remember the skill and the power. Again, one of my favorite moments is in Central Park in the summer of 2000 where Common performs The Light and the whole fucking places. There are times when you need. I mean, these are beautiful central core moments. And now you're going to be out here TD Jaking it and Draking it.
And Mos Def also has a reputation for not backing down from rap beefs. And that's another thing.
When he came at Ice Cube?
No, that's Common and Mos Def. Mos Def made a problem, but Mos Def did back down from this Chicago cat. What's his name? When Common came on, but as far as the competitive, he was a battle rapper in the cypher and all that shit. So most to be like, I'm open to dialogue with Drake. Like, why even say something?
You know why? Because he's trying to get that bag. Drake got that money sign on him, man.
I don't think that's what it is. He could have had the bag. Yasin pulled himself away from the bag for years. He's walked away from celebrity.
It sounds like a Dave Chappelle.
No,
he walked away from the money, and then now he's coming back to the money.
Thank you. Retrospect for Life. Thank you, A-Rob. That's the song I was trying to remember. But that's it. And I probably put it out of my mind on purpose because that song is too much. It's almost too much emotion. So
listen. Hey, that's the thing when legends live long enough to become villains.
Oh.
If Tupac was here, he'd have a cooking show with Martha Stewart.
Oh.
if Nipsey was here, he'd probably be pushing crypto. So
that's more likely given where he was. Nipsey would be pushing crypto. No disrespect.
No disrespect. I'm just saying.
Oh.
You know,
I don't think Pac would have a cooking channel. I think he do.
Exactly. You can say that. But if Snoop wasn't here today, you'd be saying that about Snoop.
Nah. They was in two separate spaces.
They were on the same label doing songs together.
Well, that don't mean they ain't in the mental space. They're in two separate mental spaces.
Okay. Go ahead. Speculate and fantasize all you want because the brother ain't here.
So you can
run with that.
That's what you're doing too. So
yes.
I'm just arguing with your speculation about my speculation.
I could just imagine. I fantasize about a world where KRS One.
So you fantasizing about men? Okay, I get it. That's all right.
Wait a minute, fellas. But we have Sister Evelyn.
All of our hip hop heroes are just.
We have Sister. People. I gotta show this comment. Sister Evelyn has come in with the hate of the morning. Sister Evelyn, you win the hateful comment of the morning. Shame on you. For Miss Fat Booty plays in stores sometimes too.
No.
Shame on you.
Remember?
Shame on you.
Yeah. Hey, Mos Def, remember he let Chevrolet use Umi Says or one of them?
I called that out in the early 2000s. He did Toyota. Talib was doing Toyota and Common and Coke commercials. Yep.
Worse than that. Remember where he said black people be free and they changed the verse to all people be free?
He did that too.
Go back and listen to the car commercials.
He did.
Free to be free. All people to be free, not my people or black people. All people. So
he did. You would but that was hateful. that was a little bit of a gut punch. I feel like that was a little bit of a rabbit punch. I feel my kidney
we only
hurting
had
off of that one.
We had 1.5 more things on the run sheet. So I'm very curious if Diallo, you got an opportunity to watch Capitan Traore video.
Yeah, I had to read it.
Yeah, I had to read it too. What was in French?
In French, like
of course you can read. I mean, okay, subtitles. Read it. Same thing.
I mean, you wanted us to just watch it and get the vibe?
No, I just watch it and read it. I mean, y'all can also read the stories and understand about them leaving the ECOWAS.
I went out to watch it in public.
I'm curious to hear Diallo's because the last time, in honor of episode 55, Speed Limit 55, the last time we had this conversation, Diallo was driving 95 into 55 doing the wrong way. So I'm just curious to see how.
Oh, damn.
What was I wrong about?
I'm just saying you was driving 95 in the other direction, and I'm just trying to see
what was I wrong about?
I'm just saying
how did that interview contradict anything that I said?
I mean, we can go back and watch your interview if you want, but I'm just saying.
But, all right, let's at least catch people up on what was said. Are we playing any of this first, or
we're just showing the link? We're showing the link. We can play some of the link.
All right, I'm just leaving it there with no sound. Go ahead.
American.
Go ahead.
Speak American. This is American.
Not there.
So speak American.
The subtitles.
They're not speaking American on this. Obviously, it can't have any impact on anything.
You tell me they're speaking American. This guy.
Y'all talking about Wichita, Kansas. Y'all talking about Kansas all morning. It's making me homesick.
All right, so you read the subtitles since you can't speak French.
Who, me?
What you got?
My conclusion is he said some things that gave me optimism, and he said some things that gave me pause. I've always my ultimate conclusion that you want to ignore is that I said I'm cautiously optimistic. That's what's my ultimate conclusion about what's happening there. I do have certain reservations. I do have certain concerns. But overall, I do support the ousting of not only colonial occupiers, but their puppets and their neo-colonial puppets. Also, and even if that requires violence, I agree. But I've also we've seen uprisings. We've seen liberators turn to tyrants before. And I'm just saying it was too early to draw any type of long-term conclusion. So I'm the one tiptoeing and trying to be careful here while y'all ready to break out the confetti and have the
See
parade.
What you're doing there?
And all I said was it was too early. And everybody wants me to just come down. That's all. And like old girl said, like Ricky said, irrelevant to everybody except Ricky, who not only responds to him, but to this day, they dwell and marinate in her brain capacity. So it's irrelevant to everybody except Ricky. Yeah,
All right, Diallo. I mean, Jared. What have you read?
I have not softened my position. But okay.
You ain't got no position right now.
Time will tell.
You optimistic.
I hope time will prove that I was too pessimistic. I hope that I'm wrong.
No, you said you was optimistic.
I said I'm cautiously optimistic. And then I went to talk about the things that I thought was good and positive. And I went on to talk about the things that gave me pause and some concern. I just have a broader, we've had too many liberation parades and end up right back at the end of the parades, end up right back where we started. So all I'm saying is,
what if we're not having a parade and we having a conversation and building an analysis and struggling through what's happening?
Yeah, and everybody
not a parade. You calling it a parade. You calling it a parade.
Yeah, there were some people celebrating, and I think it was premature, but okay.
Okay, so and be clear, what's one of those pauses again? Because you're saying because of what?
Well, just in this interview, he said, I am a Pan-Africanist. He talked about violent overthrow when the man basically tried to push the interviewer, whom I don't know him, where he was trying to push him on violent overthrow and why can't you do it democratically and why you got to bust heads. Come on. And he was basically like, the fuck? He's like, the good guys. He said the people condemning me for violently overthrowing the government use violence to maintain government. They use violence to keep illegitimate governments in power. So how am I wrong for using violence to upend illegitimate government? I'm like, yeah, on board. And you want to know what gives me pause? I think it's pretty obvious, of course, at the end where he started talking about God. Any leader
that talks about being informed by suck your teeth if you want, but that's a serious goddamn problem for any leadership or any type of movement. But okay.
I admit, so again, my bias is on Diallo's side in that regard here too. Especially when I'm looking at somebody in military gear, talking very materialistically about the struggle, I would be less interested in the God discussion in that moment too. I also thought his answer around when the interviewer asks him,
it's an Islamic. I'm sorry.
At one point, the interviewer asks him if, and I get the context of it being in Islam, or whatever. I get that. I'm just. That's my bias. I had a similar reaction when I read it. But when the interviewer asks him, why would you do this militarily? Why couldn't this have been done by the civilian governance? The answer Traore gives is, he says it could have. Anybody could do it. It could be done. Civilians can do it. The military can do it. I just happened to be in the military and we saw a problem that we needed to intervene in. And in that moment, I struggle with that as a viewer, because I don't equate, having control over the military is a huge advantage in comparison to some other element within in the government or civil society. So I felt like he could have had a better answer for that particular moment of the discussion. But what I did like and what did move me is, again, he's putting it in the context. When you start with Pan-Africanism and the context of a unified effort to rebel and defend against Western imperialism, I am a sucker for that. Because I understand that that's the core of all of this. So I appreciated that. There are a couple of things that I think that are always maybe too difficult to parse out in these interviews. I don't expect anyone to be perfect. And I don't know his overall capability as a spokesperson. But I do think that there was another moment also where because when he's talking about it in response to his comments about Pan-Africanism, he said something that was reminiscent of that time I was in that room with Mugabe. And he said, anybody in the African diaspora can come to Burkina and be welcomed home. And the interviewer was like, well, not everybody. I mean, he was like, you don't have the capacity to take on you can't. And I get the point of the question was, you got to go beyond some utopian approach to Pan-Africanism, and you got to be more realistic. Now, if the response had been more akin to, we're putting out a Pan-African call for support, for unity, for solidarity, for people to come and help, for people from where they are to defend us. Ultimately my point, I'll stop here, is that there were just a couple of moments where I thought the media team or the PR team or the whatever could tighten up a couple things, because I don't get the impression that he's wrong. I don't get the impression that I didn't walk away feeling like this is a treacherous or a false. What I got was, this is a younger person, forgive me, who's in the throes of leadership, military overthrow in this hotly contested moment. And so I'm sympathetic to that. And I wish them the best. But those were just a couple things that caught my attention as well. That was right.
So I feel like I remember, and I could be wrong. I can remember how it seemed to have been painted when Diallo was speaking prior to that. It could have been just him, or this wasn't what the people wanted. The people didn't. There's not something that's been happening over quite some time, even maybe before in Libya. And in the question, when he asked about like progress, and he was like, I don't really want to speak too much of progress, but you can ask the people in the villages. You can ask them how things have changed and what's going on and about the process. And so again, at that time, I'm like, if you want to try to cherry pick and find something or nitpick and say, oh, well, he said God, like, okay, is he doing all the things that you would agree with? Are they doing all things that you would agree with? And then why would you be hung up on God as if like that's going to change because these people or this in one particular person said that? And so, and then even when you talk about like the transitional military government, I remember, I think also, I could be wrong, about the pushback on the transitional government, on allow the people to supposedly lead or do whatever, as if the people are not leading and not behind this, and them actually doing that transition in alignment with what the government was doing with ECOWAS and the time period that they was making it a civilian rule government. So I'm curious to again see how, if anything, shift, because as Skip pointed out earlier, when you and Diallo and Jared was arguing about the stats, and then Diallo always says, like, if I have seen stats that make me change my mind, I would change my mind, and then you still kind of double down. And so I'm saying today, okay, well, today I wonder if nothing adjusts for you. I guess you say you're still standing on business, but nothing adjusts. There's no like, okay, I could have probably overreacted or I could have been wrong about that.
First of all, what you said, I didn't say.
So what do you say?
So you go back to the original argument, but no, I think what I saw in that video was that he's on the same path and making the same stances. So my optimism has not been reduced, and my issues have not been resolved. I said that this was overall, I said that it was good. I think it's positive, but we should not call it what it ain't. This is a military overthrow of the government. This is not a people's uprising. I mean, we just got to call it what it is. Yes. Even
so
if the people were
so the people are not uprising. That's what you're saying? The
military overthrew the military. It was not a civilian overthrow of the government. It was a military, and the military hierarchy and military figures are now the man sitting there in full military regalia with the goddamn knuckle gloves, sitting there in full military gear. And even he himself said that the military is here to provide security and that he's promising to bring about civilian government. He even says, oh yeah, we got to bring about elections and civilian rule, but we got to oust these motherfuckers and secure our states and get some things out. And he even said, yes, this is being done through violence, and we have to utilize this because of these entrenched powers. So he agrees with me that this is a military overthrow and that the military is in power. It's not an ideal situation, and they've made promises to transition to the people taking power again. So they can go back to the military just being the military instead of the military being the government.
So when they talk about the 300 delegates behind, which include the army, police, civil society unions, and political parties, you're saying that's not the people behind it.
What?
You said it's not you said this is a military thing, not the people thing, right? And I'm saying when they talk about
military, even if
let me finish. You said what? So let me finish. You said what? So let me finish. So when you said the 300 delegates, the army, which consists of the army, the civil society unions, and political parties, those people are behind what the military is doing, and you're saying the people are not leading it or behind it.
The people support it. The people embrace it. It is a popular rebellion.
People didn't make that decision. You're saying the people didn't make the decision?
Absolutely not.
Also, the military did it by itself.
So what you're saying, what you're arguing is that the people.
No, I'm actually asking because you sound like you know a lot about it. So I'm asking.
What you're saying is that the people went to the military and asked the military to oust the seated government on their behalf, and so the military was following the instructions of civilians.
So I'm asking, did you say that?
I answer your questions to the best of my abilities. Can you answer mine?
So what I'm saying is the 300 delegates, that includes the army, the police, the civil society union, and political parties. These people are more in control of what those people do or didn't do.
Who is?
So when you say what?
Wait, what? What do you mean those people do? What people doing what?
So the military had the means to seize the government, right? And you're saying that you huh?
It's just we got a whole new world here. Gosh, she sound like I mean, you say that about the U.S. military, bizarro world. But okay.
Right, so for instance, let me ask you this: when you was a correctional officer or whatever you was doing in the prison, did you go in there to help the people? Were you with the people, or you went in there to repress the people?
I went in there to provide medical care to the inmates.
Right, and you wanted to help the people, or do you wanted to repress the people?
What?
This is you don't understand that question? I went in there
to provide medical services for the incarcerated population.
Okay, so were you going there to help the people? And then
not all the people, no.
Okay, well,
not the guards, not the warden.
Diallo, the
last. What people are you talking about? You talking about the incarcerated people?
The last episode, yeah, them too. But the last episode before last or whatever, when you said that you killed this idea of trying to change the system from within, you tried it. Well,
that wasn't my initial intention, but while I was there and I saw the corruption and injustice and the abuses, I said, I don't want to be a part of this, so I'm going to try to change it and fundamentally change it. And
so can people in the military do that too?
It got worse while I did that.
Well, that's you. But can people in the military do that too?
I haven't seen an example. If you can provide me with an example
right now, though. You refuse to see the example. Just as well as let me finish. Just as well as you was in the prison system with the idea that you want to side with the people and change it from within, why can't they do that in Africa right now? In Burkina?
Well,
why can't the military be with the people?
They upended and uprooted the system. They ousted the motherfuckers. Changing the system within would mean he ran for elected office. He started joining the parliamentary system. He uprooted and threw the system out. What are you talking about? He didn't change the system from within. He took over the system.
What I'm saying was he was in the system, and that, I mean, taking over this changing it too.
Right, and he didn't change the system. Listen, if I'm in the U.S. military and I get a faction of the U.S. military to take up arms against the government, at that very moment, I'm no longer in the system. Being in the system is being Colin Powell, following the chain of command, following and working within the limitations in the system to change the system.
So what was you trying to do? What was you trying to do when you was in the prison system?
What are you talking about?
Well, what was you trying to do? What was your objective?
I was trying to advocate for reform in practices. I was advocating for more transparency because a lot of inmates would come in with certain injuries and they would bury those injuries and abuses. For example, there was one time where an inmate was pleasuring himself in the prison cell, and a female prison guard was doing the line check on the tiers, and she saw this man was in, and she felt that he was disrespecting her because she knew the times she would do the cell check. So she went and got a high power water hose and turned on this high power water hose to a man in a small cell, probably smaller than your walk-in closet, and turned this high power, high pressure water hose and sprayed this man up. And I'm in the infirmary, and they bring him down for a series of x-rays for multiple contusions and fractures and dislocations. The dude was literally like in a box and shaken up. And I'm like, what is our responsibility as healthcare providers? We see a crime and a human rights violation, and we provide him with treatment. We recommend him for ongoing therapy and treatment. We diagnose his issues and treat them. But why do we just have to stop there? When we see a crime, are we not mandated reporters? So I went up the hierarchy to talk. I went to the medical staff hierarchy, which was my administration. Then I went to some of the they called us civilian staff. They called us civilian. And then I went to, I don't even know what the fuck, the guards. And I went to the administrator and up to the deputy warden. So I was trying to say, listen, when medical staff observe human rights abuses, there should be an apparatus. And I went to the 1199 union, which I was a union member. And I went to the union, and I'm saying, if I'm treating a person who is a victim of a crime, and I was looking at it from when I was doing clinicals, and if someone came in with like if you go into an emergency room in the world, and you bring a child that has injuries or that looks like they've been abused or SA'd, you are mandated to report that up the line.
But if you're in a prison and you can see somebody who's been assaulted in a myriad of ways, it stops there. You provide the treatments, you give over the medical records, and it stops there. And you trust the people who did the abuse to carry on. So that's one of the things I advocated for, many other things. And that shit got nowhere. And while I was there for those 3 years, shit started deteriorating and getting worse. And when I left, they begged me to stay. And even some of the inmates was like, man, you one of the best dudes in here. And what's ironic is a lot of the people, I was working at Rikers Island, which is in East Elmhurst, but I was living in Brooklyn where a large population. And if you know anything about Rikers Island, it's not a prison, it's a jail. So people are only there that are serving a year or less or awaiting trial. So the vast majority, over 80% of those people in Rikers come back home. And I would always run into people in the neighborhood. So I try to change. Now, if I had gotten some sympathetic clinical staff and I've gotten some sympathetic guards and we said, we're going to take the warden hostage and we're going to unlock all the cells, I'm no longer working from within the system. Even if I was once a member on staff there and able to walk through those gates and walk out on a daily basis. The moment I say, hey, we're no longer playing this game, we no longer following the chain of command, we're going to throw out.
So now you're with the people, right? So now you're with the people when you do that?
I could be supported by the people, but who?
But you're with the people though. You sided with the people.
The inmates could support me, but it wasn't the inmates who asked me to do it.
At that point, right? You sided with the people.
I believe that I'm acting in the interest of the people. If I did something like that, absolutely, yes.
There we go. Ta-da.
And the people could support me. But the whole bottom line is the moment I say, fuck this shit, I'm going to do this, I'm no longer acting or changing things from within the system.
Can I raise, there are two, because I think I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes, and I want to just raise two questions from that interview that I would like to learn more about that I didn't see, excuse me, given, based on the time, the interview, and maybe a lot of the things that I'm sure I just don't understand about the situation. There were 2 points raised in the interview, again, that I just felt were insufficiently answered. This is not a critique of Traoré or his movement. It's just a couple questions that I have. One was around Burkina Faso being landlocked. And I thought this was a question that kind of got passed over pretty quickly, because one of the things that the interviewer was raising was, if I remember correctly, was in the context of trying to establish where Traoré and his crew feel like this is going to go or how this is going to work. He was probing, I think in a seemingly honest way. And one of the issues he raised was, you all are landlocked. You don't even have a port. You don't have access. So if you're, what does this mean with your relationship to the AES or ECOWAS, and all of the what I believe Traoré was saying about ECOWAS in particular, the lack of real solidarity in that formation, a neo-colonial formation. So I just thought I would like to see and learn more about that one. And the other one was that this question of how are you going to fund your revolution? And I was confused. I am confused by the answer. So I'm acknowledging I don't have enough understanding of all this. But, and again, easy D, if you're right, Algeria has offered them access to the sea. Okay, but that wasn't brought up. That wasn't discussed in this interview. So I admit I'm just not aware. But the other part, so in this question of the funding, Traoré kept making the point that basically the state is going to subsidize what the people need and is going to more or less internally fund itself. But then he was talking about sales of oil, for instance, and the wealth that would be created, the money that would, so it sounded like to me, I was confused because first of all, they were talking about selling natural resources to fund, which I'm assuming are still going to be primarily Western buyers if you're going to make the kind of money that that's the whole point. And then the other part of it was that they're still having to deal with francs. They were apparently still in all of this was being discussed in terms of the amount of money and the wealth that's being created and redistributed in francs. That's what I don't know, Geechee, that's what he said in the interview. So I'm
Russia, to the east, my brother, to the east, my brother. There's some options.
Well, I mean, so, but again, I'm just saying, I didn't see this part fleshed out and discussed, and I admit that they were like interesting points. I would like to, and I hope. So I don't know what alliances are being made, and obviously he might not want to share everything. Exactly, exactly.
So I could tell that the interviewer, I respect the interviewer.
He seemed pretty sharp.
I mean, I'm just not used to seeing that quality of journalism when you consume Western media. When you first sent me the link, I'm like, this is like you were saying. I thought this was some fluff piece where this guy would just be like, why are you so great? And
Obi,
and triumphant. But it was some real questions. I'm sorry.
No, my bad. I just wanted to say quickly, I'm acknowledging that this was this interview can't cover everything, but it is the interview we were asked to review for this
of a transitional government leader. Government.
I understand that, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying you said watch this. I watched it, and I'm just answering to what I watched. So I'm with you. I am wanting what would get us removed from YouTube, but I'm just admitting, because I think about this all the time, and I try to play it out in my head, not in this context, in different contexts, but these are the kinds of questions that I wonder about. Literally, my man Bashi and I were trying to do a Spook Part 2 based in Baltimore, and this was the exact issue. I said centering our story in. Stop. You twice now you've interrupted my flow with references to Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels. Young man. But my point was, what I liked about the setting of Baltimore was that we could argue that the revolution had claimed sea access and a port. That was that. So my point is, I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. That is a major issue. So yes, I hope Algeria is on board and others are on board. But it was the King of Morocco. Sorry. Okay, thank you again. But I'm admitting also that I'm way behind. I'm not an expert on this, so I'm just.
Let's get to the question since you got to go.
Okay. Right. Real quick. I know somebody asked if the Black Eagle was on the docket. All I would want to say is that Joe Madison passed away. The Black Eagle. For those who are not familiar, he was a mainstay in Black radio. Arguably a legend in Black radio. And I will also acknowledge we crossed paths a couple times. We're not on the same page, but
blooded with Karen Hunter.
But I acknowledge particularly his importance to many good Black people, that he was an important figure. So I that's it. But that was all I had on. Rest in power.
Rest in peace.
Absolutely. So let's get into some of these questions.
It should be Q and H.
What is the H for? Hassle?
Hateration.
Hateration. Where are we? Are you pulling them up? Who's doing it?
I can.
Geechee's just his little Twitter finger is just going off today.
It could be Q and it could be Q and C if you wanted to be.
Everything that is.
Do you want it to be Q and C, Diallo? Q and C.
I'd like you to.
They ask questions and you conflate. That's what you want.
What did you say?
You heard what I said.
You really?
You heard exactly what I said. Questions and conflate. Okay. Sponsored by Diallo. All right, man. Shout out to who does it? Jiggin?
What does that mean?
You're conflating social media platforms.
What does that mean?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It should be questions and conflate because Diallo.
I don't. Can you explain this comment to me?
Oh, I don't know.
You're riding hard for this question,
but I do know you be conflating. All right. So socialism wants to keep people poor is said by a lot of people who know better. So I can go.
How can they know better though? Yeah, she does. But how could they? But that's my point, though. How can they know better?
Concurrence.
They don't know better. If that's your conclusion, then you don't understand socialism or its history.
It's not their conclusion. You assume everybody is being honest.
That's a line. That's a line that they say.
People lie, Jared.
People on the left and socialists and all these people, they want
Geechee land. Come visit Bro Diallo land. You're like, what? If somebody says that, they
first
don't
of all,
understand,
first
I
of all,
have to teach them.
First of all, Diallo, you are doing to Geechee land the same thing you're doing to Burkina. You ain't know what the hell going over there and just making some comments. You ain't know what the hell going on in Geechee land, but you're making comments. Either come over here and talk with my people in Geechee land, or go over there to Burkina and talk with people.
I can't afford to go to Geechee land. I ain't got Geechee land money.
What my boy Manning says, because there was a guy in our study group. Well, it was a person in our study group who was talking about how bad China is, and Manning says, "No investigation, no right to cap." Right. So if you ain't investigating, I know you don't.
Well, I would rephrase that. Even if there's no investigation, it is cap.
That works too. All right. At this point, what is it? Oh, at this point, why I need to see Ricky and Diallo debate? I'm really confused about. Yeah, they're not going to debate. Who started that? One of y'all?
I didn't.
Diallo.
I didn't.
It stars automatically. It's a super chat. Yeah.
So
it stars automatically. So thank you for the
thanks for that $9.99.
Yeah, we know. When money calls, we listen. You dig?
Jared, that's the same argument of black cops and prison guards use. I've heard that the same thing from their mouths. Heard similar from cats who sell drugs. So I guess the limited choice, they don't have a choice thing that you were saying.
Again, look, I understand. Not everybody wants to engage analysis. They want to stay in one or another polled opinion or feeling, and so I'm not justifying. I am in this moment seeking, or in certain moments seeking, to analyze and come up with answers that explain why people are making the quote unquote choices or decisions that they're making. And so, okay, so that's that. Yeah.
Passion. At my HBCU, Army recruiters constantly set up kiosks and booths at freshman orientation right next to banks, trying to get students to sign up for credit cards. So get a credit card, get a loan, and pay it off with what you say?
I said it's all in the game, yo.
Yeah.
Has anybody? I would be shocked to see that same, because I see it at Morgan all the time. I'd be shocked to see that same setup at even University of Maryland, much less a Harvard or a Princeton. But and that's so yeah.
My oldest son, his first taste of student activism is when they had a career day at his university, and they had military booths. At both ends, you had to deal with the military going in, and then you interact with all the other career paths. And when you go to all those other people, like, I don't want to do all this shit, and then going out, like they literally.
I remember,
and he was protesting, and even went to the president. And I'm like, man.
And remember, people forget this part too. In the early 2000s, it was Spike Lee being commissioned by the U.S. Navy to create a series of commercials targeting black and brown people for the Navy. So the same guy that brought us Malcolm X. So
somebody said went to PIA and only got CIA recruiters.
Yeah, at College Park, a CIA recruiter came to our lunch table in the eatery, in some sort of like mascot outfit, and we were laughing. I was like, you were at the wrong table, but that's the CIA. The College Park, University of Maryland, is one of the major CIA recruitment stations on the East Coast.
So yeah, Arlene attended a suburban public high school in the 80s, and recruiters were constantly there. Skip. Also, Diallo has said many times with evidence he changed his mind. Here is evidence, and I'm not hearing mine change.
Is the evidence? What evidence is he referring
when Jared brought you the evidence that you use, and he ratioed you on your own.
No, evidence. but what did that change about my point?
It didn't. That's what they're saying.
What point of mine did that information contradict?
Well, you try
that you claim that most people who get recruited are coming from the middle class, and that was exactly wrong.
And you use middle class income.
I said
Diallo, hold up.
That the middle class is overrepresented.
No, that's what the article said. That's not what you said.
I read off the
all right,
screen.
go back. All right, it's on tape. We don't have to do that. That's exactly the opposite.
If I do say, and I also acknowledge that poor people are targeted, and I said amongst the poors, as when I was amongst the poors before I made it out, before God used me to show out, when I was amongst the poors, when they came to recruit for my housing project, I said that they go after the creme de la creme. So the poor kids without options that they go after were the ones who were on track to graduate, not the ones who were in the streets and in that life. The kids that we would define as having no options and no future, that we would incorrectly and inappropriately say have no future, they went after the aspiring or the strivers, as they used to be called, the kids who were trying to make it out and trying to make something of themselves, on track to graduate and things of that nature.
So again, rewind the tape, and then I'm gonna bring in another Cam and Mace reference. You spin cycling. Your spin game is vicious, my man.
Okay. I just don't see. I just don't see that. My main point is the U.S. military is not full of people who had no other options. Yeah, you can dance all you want, but I mean,
you dancing. You're the one spin cycling.
Did that information contradict the fact that the people where you're like, oh, I'm so sympathetic to these people going overseas to murder starving, malnourished people.
So now you're misrepresenting my argument on top of the spinning. All right, it's all on tape, so I'm good. Everybody can just go back to the segment on that.
Well.
Yeah. Thank you, ZZ Lion. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean that's we're going on to the good morning to. All right, we had an afternoon.
Thank you, Kelly J. Wait, you skipped the last one. We didn't even read it. ZZ giving us money and everything, but we got to at least read it. Acknowledge my man
down
gave
your
us some
Twitter finger.
All right, my bad, ZZ. That's my people's. Most kids are from low income with very little choice not to put themselves in debt for college or join the military.
Okay, but that's a choice.
Limited choices.
Hold up.
Okay, limited choices, but it's still a choice.
Yeah, I ain't arguing about choices. I think the choices that you have and the choices you feel you have is more of the argument for me.
Hey, just real quick, strike culture. Who you yelling at? And put some money on it if you want to add it to the Q&A. Because you wild wrong. And you wild wrong. I showed how we read the part of the report that Diallo read and showed he misread it. What are you talking about? Go ahead, strike culture. Put some money on it so you get dealt with properly. Thank you, ZZ.
Listen, I think it is the wrong story to tell. There's a lot of kids with options going into the military for various reasons. And this old ham bone story, all these young people have no other options but to be fodder for the U.S. empire is absolutely incorrect.
Again, I go back and look at the segment because that wasn't my argument either.
Well, Diallo,
in fact, I pointed out that
we don't have what's the fight if that's not your argument because that's mine.
We got to argue. We got an argument here, Diallo. Propaganda existed before the church.
Give me the example of
empire existed before that.
I didn't say that empire. Propaganda is a very specific means of the core propaganda means to propagate, and to propagate a message, you need an infrastructure. So with the ministers, the missionaries, the nuns, and they generally ran what level of education there was at the time of education for the masses. So propaganda, as we understand it, as a technique for communicating and as an agenda, was founded by the church. I didn't say anything about empire, but if you look at it prior to propaganda, most people were the method of moving mass populations was to say, hey, do this or we will burn your village. Do this or we will cut your tongue out. Whereas propaganda is a method. It's a method that requires you to have certain resources at your disposal that only were privy to either the monarchs or the church at that time when it was created. So propaganda, as far as I understand propaganda formally, now we call a lot of shit propaganda that's not really propaganda, but propaganda as I understand it, is as it is defined, was found. Most people, anti-church and pro-church people, will acknowledge that propaganda came out of mainly the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church.
But okay.
So I will just say that, just to add quickly, Big Teal is obviously correct that the idea of propaganda pre-exists the church, but the term propaganda is often historicized in connection specifically with the Catholic Church and its call to propagate the faith. Right. So, yeah, I just that's it.
So, Diallo, how was Ricky right? You ask. By or be naming that one can not speak in absolute terms about the nature of coups because dialectical materialism tells us otherwise.
Right. Which is why I said, right. Who said anything in absolute terms about coups?
You were speaking in absolutes before.
What did I say? Tell me what I said.
I mean, we have to go back. But
tell me what. Okay.
You spoke. You spoke in a lot of absolutes. And I think Ajamu was trying to explain that to you, but you wasn't.
Oh, you talking about way back when? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Which you probably should remember. And that's why I say
I remember what I said back then. I remember what I say now. I did say there are some things that I tend to just not like. I spoke in absolute terms. Yes, I did about some of my conclusions, but I did not speak in absolute terms about my outlook on the action. Like I said, ultimately, if I had to reduce it to one sentence, and my point of view is I'm cautiously optimistic, but there are certain things I don't like. Like, yeah, I don't like military coups as principle. I don't like militaries as principle. Yes, there are certain things on principle I don't trust, again, and I don't.
I know your fans are saying that this false. I know your fans saying this false equivalent. Let me finish.
I'm gone. I'm just.
So when you say that as a person in the prison, once you revolt against it, you are no longer a prison person, right?
Huh?
No, never mind.
What? No, that's not what I said, Geechee. I was trying to explain to you what
you say you're no longer with them.
I was trying to explain to you what working within the system means.
Well, we're not talking about working within the system. That wasn't my point. My point was you were in the system, but you also had affinity or allegiance to the people. And if the people,
but that's not anything I ever argued related to.
Well, maybe you was missing the argument, and we was talking about something else. Then.
No, Geechee, no, that's not the case at all.
Oh, okay.
That's not the case at all, Geechee. Listen to me. When I was saying that the military overthrowing the civilian government, generally, as a rule of thumb, is not something that the citizens, the subjects, the masses should, because these are two institutions of power going at each other. But if both of those institutions of power claim to represent the people, and I think the people, the masses, whom these power hierarchical institutions above us claim to be acting on our behalf when they go after another, we have every obligation to question and be critical and cautious, even if we support it. If a radical leftist faction within the U.S. military ran up in the Congress and ran up in the White House and upended the government, and they say we are socialist revolutionaries, we're going to withdraw and recall all U.S. foreign troops, and we're going to pay reparations to Africa, and said all this positive shit, I'd be like, yeah, I agree with that. But I'm not going to be like, well, that's me. I'm a part of that, because I'm not a part of the military. I'm not a part of the government. So even if they're doing shit I like, I'm still going to be like, that's still the fucking military. They still got the weapons. They still have a monopoly on both power and the capacity to use that power.
So socialist governments for the people shouldn't or should have a military?
Huh? I think that standing militaries are a problem. But in this context, in this world, if I was a head of state of an African nation or a Caribbean nation, if I was a head of state, I definitely would form and set up not just a military, but I would be more of a Switzerland model. Like every able-bodied man and woman in the country should be armed and prepared, because I know that where we're trying to exercise our national sovereignty, we're going to draw the aggression. So there would be, so I'm not saying that, but ultimately in my fundamental ideology, I think we should strive towards a world where there shouldn't be standing armies and militaries.
I mean, that would be hopeful, but in the meantime, while you transition,
I just said,
yeah. Okay.
If I could just say very quickly, reading Big Teal's comments, with all due respect, I don't hear the chauvinism in even the disagreements here. I don't feel like it's chauvinistic to, from afar, try to offer an assessment as best as one can, given our collective interests in what's happening there. But I'm not hearing it, at least, the chauvinism or this idea that anyone here, Diallo included, is saying we've got it figured out and y'all over there should just
say
listen
my
to
name.
us.
We could just pretend like it was to all of us.
Well, I wasn't sure, and I'm just now joining the conversation. So you're right. Again, that's what I'm saying. Any of us.
She was saying all of us.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't.
I would never be presume that I could tell, but I can draw my conclusions, and I can articulate my conclusions, and just like Ricky pretends to.
See how you
say it don't matter. See how you gotta do. You know what?
But if I could, I just want to add clearly. I don't want to go too far, but I want to just say clearly, I think I'm where I feel immature and inappropriate in any of this is that, I know I'm encouraged to be made to feel this way, or I'm encouraged by many mainstream liberal popular views of these things to feel this way. But in general, I'm just up for an initial disruption. And I know I'm not doing her argument right. Sarah Schwarma I think I'm missing her name up. I gotta refine the work. But she wrote this piece that I read last year in the context of her work in non-Western feminism. But talking about women need to become broken machines, that women are encouraged to be machinery in society, and that they need to become broken machines. And I'm like, to the extent we're all being put to that task, I want more of us to be broken, and I want this thing to break. And I almost, again, immaturely, maybe inappropriately, maybe it is bougie and privileged. And even at the risk of my own and my family's relative cushy lifestyle, I want to see a revolutionary break, and I almost don't care what it looks like. So that's the error.
Even if
the
it's
side
reactionary.
I'm hearing. I didn't say.
Well, will it be reactionary?
Well, I'm not. I'm not sure how it would be that, but my point is that even if it is incomplete, if it is not perfectly thought out, if the perfect utopian conclusion can't immediately be reached, I think something has to break what's happening. So
chauvinism might sound. That's where it might sound like chauvinism when those.
Okay, but my point is that I'm almost by tendency predisposed to side with any effort.
Yeah, I'm saying not by you.
I'm
saying not chauvinism by you. I'm talking about Diallo's response will be how people might receive chauvinism. Like it has to be this way, or even at that. And you're saying,
but I don't even hear Diallo saying that. So maybe I need to go back and listen to that initial argument. But I'm not.
I'm saying that's where people can hear it sounding like you telling these people how to do it, and your ass over here.
Well,
and this is correct. And if it's not done this way, then blah blah blah. Like that's what it could sound like to them. Somebody who's reading it or who even know more about the situation.
I got good news and bad news for you, Jared, because your break, it comes. This system is collapsing under its own contradictions, and I think it's for people like us to make sure it falls to the left as opposed to the right, because that's really because the break is coming. But I think historically we pay too much attention to the break and not enough attention to the erosion. So now that we're in a time where things are rapidly eroding, is a time to kind of direct that break. And as things do begin to falter, as people do begin to lose faith in institutions, we see the great effectiveness of right-wing reactionary fascist decapitate your daddy type motherfuckers to take this justified outrage, this justified disillusion, this justified desire to lash out and redirect it at vulnerable populations, at scapegoats, and at the wrong targets. So I agree with you. This has to break. This system is not sustainable. This system is destroying the very life-sustaining capacity of the world. But it's our obligation, to the best of our ability, to make sure it breaks and it falls. And when the shit opens up, it opens up on behalf of the people who suffer and not on behalf on those who created the problem in the first place.
Does ZZ represent your argument, Diallo, and what you are thrusting?
And imperialism, as he said, is a very bad student. When he is chased away, he returns with the same method. We follow, so we don't let same mistakes happen again today. Diallo said cautious optimism.
Yes. And I think that should be, I think that should be of any person wanting positive change on no matter what scale you're working on, because we've seen too many good, legitimate revolutions be undermined and subverted. We've seen too many champions of the people turn out to seek to replace our oppressors as opposed to unseat and destroy unjust hierarchies. So I can't really imagine any true person who desires any institutional or substantial change to take any other conclusion but that. Yeah, I support what's happening, but I'm also going to be critical at each step of the process to make sure that history doesn't repeat and we don't end up with another Mobutu or another what's the guy
let's
scream another Jomo Kenyatta.
Blaise Compaoré Mobutu. Let's stop there. So in your study of how the trajectory of Mobutu was, is Burkina and Traoré even remotely close to that?
No, I would say he's closer to Thomas Sankara. But again, we didn't know in his first year. I mean, we knew out the gate with Mobutu, but with Jomo Kenyatta, we didn't know year 1, year 2. We didn't see it. It's in its infancy. The revolution that even the revolutionaries to say it's in its infancy. I mean, look at how the Panthers turned out, where people don't think we're worthy to speak on Africa. Look at our revolutionary and Black Power movements here, and a lot of those figures. So it's very to me. You know, it is our job. I do think we should. Now, let me say, when I would talk about ticker tape parade, I think we do need to acknowledge and celebrate small victories and things. We don't always have to stay in the doldrums, but we have to be extremely sober in our analysis, because we're up against some enemies that we've seen that not only are relentless, but have weathered a lot of storms, have weathered a lot of rebellions and uprisings and revolutions and come back on top. So as we start to progress, and I would say that even as where he's even stating that we're going to return to civilian government, but we need security. We need to complete this purge and things of that nature. So I understand. Lord knows I understand. I think one of the biggest issues with the Haitian Revolution is that they surrendered power to the non-revolutionaries too quickly. And I think, who was that? I'm not sure. I'm not going to quote the brother without remembering, but right, where he was talking about the Haitian Revolution when the Haitians took power and how they disseminated power in such a way that made the new liberated state vulnerable.
This is a response to Jared's question, the 2 questions. That's why there's the AES and the Guinea is coastal, and they all had a sit down yesterday, I believe, and AES just left ECOWAS.
Right on. Thank you very much.
So again, my intentions was to try to figure out how Diallo frames.
So wait a minute. I'm sorry, just real quick. When did this interview we watched take place?
Well, it was posted a day ago. I think that was just as recent. But
I thought it was the day that it was posted.
Because I didn't see. I don't recall him making any reference to any of that.
I mean, but the interview is small and clipped, so there's more and people and sources to kind of engage it.
No, I know there's more beyond the interview, but I'm saying the interview was still, I think, long enough that in an answer specific to access to ports and funding the revolution, that those points would have come up. I don't think we would have needed an extensive. So that's why I'm just saying. But again, I might have missed it, or obviously there's much more I need to catch up on. But yeah, great.
Ricky said that she would send the resources.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, that's fine. I don't. Yeah, I'm just saying again, just as a reminder.
He should have said.
I'm not even saying he should have. I'm saying we were asked to respond to this one video. I watched the video, I read the video, and those were questions that I had that were not, I thought, dealt with in full or at all in the video. So I'm not I'm just, that's it. But I get it. Okay, good. And good.
All right.
So yeah,
can we try to kind of speed run these next few?
Yeah,
now my time is. I was trying to outlast Jared.
We almost at 4 hours anyway.
That's my only mission in life: beat Jared, and everything else take care of itself.
Wait, I thought you just said you're not into competitions.
I wasn't until he started challenging me.
You said I don't know.
I ain't most deaf. I ain't gonna back down from a challenge.
Oh,
anyway, yeah.
I'm sorry, Yassine Bey. I don't want to, use his slave rap name.
Diallo.
The multiple polarity, right? I saw that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
ZZ line. I'm with Diallo.
That criticism before we could get to it, but let's go.
I mean, you say want to roll on, but let's go. I'll stay there. I'll stay there.
We can kind of hurry.
No, that's what I was.
I don't even know what this is referring to.
This is referring to me, just how you said how they're in the military, so they can't be with the people. And I'm like, well, weren't you at the local domestic military, and you still say you was with the people? And I'm saying, so if you could side with the people.
I've never been official or unofficially a part of any type of policing or
well, what I'm saying is you're working for the state. You're working for the state.
I was not working for the state. I was working for the Albert Einstein School of Medicine.
Oh, so you wasn't helping? You wasn't?
I was part of epidemiological research for tuberculosis and other communicable diseases in concentrated populations, and I was working as a radiographer in the prison infirmary. I did not have any authority to police or to control the movement of prisoners. Or
so you was contract by the prisons. Is what you're saying?
I wasn't the
your employer.
Yes, and then they went from a public contractor, and because of some of the rumblings that were made, they went to a private medical contractor. And they disassociated themselves, and they wanted me to go and work for the private health contractor as opposed to work for the medical institution, the medical school. And I said, I'm not going to do it. So I bounced.
Okay. So you was a civilian working in the prison.
Yes. In the prison infirmary.
And so, yeah. Okay.
Right. And in the prison isolation ward where they had the inmates with TB and other highly contagious diseases. I also worked there, and I worked at the Rose M. Singer Center. I worked on all the houses and infirmaries except for the juvenile prison, where some of the highest, they called that the gladiator school, where some of the highest incidents of abuse and exploitation,
right,
especially by the staff. And the vast majority of the injuries and abuses came from not inmate on inmate, but prison guard and prison staff on inmate violence.
Okay, there we go. You win. All right. We did this, we did that. ZZ. Oh, that's all. We don't have any more. That was the last two.
We did it. All right.
It's $2.
All right, Jared, sign off. Like you said. Right. Let me stop.
Sign us off. Everybody just sign off. Everybody.
We all go at the same time. 3, 2.
All right,
I just wanted to stay on longer than Jared. I felt like I was always leaving. And then Jared said, I got to go. And I'm like, good, I can stay on here longer than him today.
Listen, thanks everybody. Like, share, subscribe, join the platform, support in any way you can, comment, put this into your socials. Don't be stingy with the debate, the argument, the analysis. And we'll be back tomorrow with Saturdays with Renee, Sunday with Sundays in the Ear Doctor. We got make sure you got the bell rung so you don't miss all the other offerings popping up probably as we've been talking. Who knows what's been going on. But thanks to the fellas here. Thanks to all of those in the chat.
Don't join the military.
Well, I got to jump over to Saturday Renee and get up out of this EYL cesspool.
No, you're not invited over there either, dog. You ain't know you limited in these spaces. We the only one that welcome.
I'm down bad over here.
Everybody else don't want you around. We the only
right.
One
I know the feeling.
And you still treat us bad. Yeah.
No, he said he said, can he come to Saturdays? If we was like,
I gotta see. Uh-huh.
All right, peace. Only if you're willing to fight for it. Like Fred Hampton used to say, catch you next time here throughout the BPM platform. Thanks, everybody.
You got to earn your liberation.